number 3. Meanwhile, Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce tells Weish he wouldn't rule out the Raiders taking a QB with the 13th pick, but adds that Aiden O'Connell will be in the mix to keep his starting job after the, quote, mental toughness he showed last year as a rookie. And Panthers head coach Dave Canales tells NFL Network's Tom Pelissero he has no doubts that Bryce Young can rebound from a rocky rookie year due to the fact he overcame adversity previously in both high school and college. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
We're David and Greg Figueroa, founders of Melinda's Hot Sauce.
Customers say we've ruined all other hot sauces for them.
So, we're sorry.
For rocking your world.
We're sorry we craft hot sauces from fresh, hot, flavorful ingredients, while other brands just use dried spice dust and vinegar. So a moment of silence.
Set your mouth on flavor with Melinda's Hot Sauces. Find them at your local retailer or online at melindas.com. That's MELINDAS.com.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusion.
Do you like to shoot fireworks? Would you like to get paid to shoot fireworks? J&M Displays wants you. Help shoot an Omaha Storm Chasers game, Memorial Park display, or any of the major shows in western Iowa and all of Nebraska. If you like to travel, J&M covers Nebraska, Kansas, and most of Missouri. They offer free training and great daily pay rates, which makes it a perfect part-time job. Visit jnmdisplays.com and click the Join Our Team tab to find out more. J&M Fireworks.
If you're looking for a safe and reliable vehicle to get you through all types of winter weather and more, Baxter Subaru has you covered. Symmetrical all-wheel drive comes standard on nearly all Subaru models and provides you better traction, improved stability, and maximized performance on wet and snowy roads. So hop in the driver's seat of a new Outback, Forester, or Crosstrek now at Baxter Subaru Omaha. Shop our great sales and service deals now during the Subaru A Lot to Love event at BaxterSubaruOmaha.com.
When I heard the words, "you have breast cancer," I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do. My OBGYN called me and said, I know exactly what we're going to do, which led me to Nebraska Cancer Specialists. From day one, I felt that I was at the right place. There were some pretty rough times, but together we are stronger and they are there for you. You do not feel that you are alone. NebraskaCancer.com.
Hey everyone, Josh and John here for the FanDuel Sportsbook. The college basketball playoff rolls on, and right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We have lines for this weekend. Of course, my friend John, he'll be in Detroit. Creighton right now, 2.5-point dogs versus Tennessee. Maybe you like the underdog. Maybe you like Iowa State versus Illinois. Whatever matchup you like, just go to FanDuel.com/1620 today and get in on the action.
Josh, whether it is the second weekend or the third weekend of the college basketball playoff, you can get $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, and pick even who's going to win the whole thing. Just visit FanDuel.com/1620 and bet on the college basketball playoff until they cut down the nets. 21 plus in present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Hi, this is John Bishop. Since the day I got my driver's license, I've had a check next to the organ and tissue donor box. It's a selfless gift because healthy organ donors can save up to 8 lives. And with tissue donation, dozens more can get the gift of sight, and burn victims can get life-changing skin grafts. Anybody can register, and there's no cost to you or your family. Check that organ donor box next time you renew your license, or visit goodguysavelives.com. Learn more about organ and tissue donation today and see how you can save 8 lives at goodguysavelives.com.
20 seconds left. Ashworth to his right hand. Ashworth with 17. Ashworth to Shireman with 15. Shireman around a screen. Shireman in the paint. Hesitates. Fadeaway. Jumper. Good! 9 seconds left.
Get on Couznard.
8 seconds left. 62-62. Couznard with 5. Couznard with 4. Couznard with 3. Couznard looks to drive. puts it up. It is no good. We're going to overtime. Baylor Shireman with 9 seconds left ties the game. And then the Blue Jays get the stop. Trey trying to get downhill. Trey in traffic, in trouble, kicks it out. Stevens got a rhythm. 3, bang! Come on, Stevens! Steven Ashworth, 5 points, bang, 3-pointer. 74-71 Blue Jays. 3:38 to go in overtime. Trying to get away from Kuznard. Steven around to the right side. Now snake dribble back out to Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner outside the arch, going to shoot the 3. Yes! Ryan Kalkbrenner, 5 points, bang, 3-pointer. Jays by 6. 3 minutes to go in overtime. Dana Altman knows it's over. Steven Ashworth will dribble out the clock. The Blue Jays on a 15-2 run in the second overtime. And friends, fuel up that Chevrolet. Fire up that engine. The Creighton Blue Jays are headed to the Motor City. And they're headed to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd time in 4 years.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
You got to be kidding me. All the contact they're allowing to get down there, and they call that ticky-tack foul on Trey. Sweet Mother McCree.
Hey, I wish I knew who Bishop did the games for. I have no idea.
I know.
I mean,
very, Westwood one guys
very,
are just
neutral.
The NCAA radio network.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. I think I just have to, after listening to that montage of Johnny B getting very, very excited,
getting down.
I think this was the most appropriate tweet of the entire weekend, which Twitter was a mess. Twitter was an absolute mess this entire weekend. I observed from afar, but it was Nebraska and Creighton fans. It was the Nebraska women are too Caucasian. It's Tominaga, tears like the 49ers tears that are now bottled up and sold across the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Like Twitter was just an absolute mess. And then there were some good things on Twitter that I'll explain. Because then where the lines are like blurred between Twitter and real journalism, ask Matt Painter. But I think this might be the best tweet of the weekend, just kind of on the heels of Bish's montage at the game that I'm going to also do my Jimmy Fallon here in just a moment. This is from a guy named Scott Wibley. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Scott _Wibley. I just listened to the Creighton radio broadcast duo for the final 5 minutes in both overtimes. My first time checking them out, and holy moly, they are like a mix of WWF wrestlers and Chris Farley and hip-hop hype men and Stellar and Waldorf from the Muppets. Intense.
I love the end of it too. Intense.
It is,
because I really didn't know where they were going. I saw the same tweet last night. I didn't know where they were going with it, and then at the last word, intense.
Yeah, like if you were, I mean, I know how Creighton fans react. Like if you were just a normal person, you listen to Bishop doing a game like that, you're probably like outside running around the block. You're like preparing for the Boston Marathon later.
Double cigarettes in your mouth because your nerves.
But I would like to say, as we welcome you on a Monday after the opening weekend of the Men's March Madness, women have one more to go. We get a Caitlin Monday. We get a Paige Monday, and we get a Juju Monday. The women's basketball tournament continues tonight. But the men are done. It is very chalky onto the Sweet 16, and it is an unbelievable Sweet 16. All the ones and the twos made it. 10 of the top 12 seeds made it, except for Baylor and Duke. Or no, not Baylor and
Duke made it. Come on now.
Baylor and Kansas.
Yeah, which wasn't an upset because Gonzaga was actually favored in that game anyway.
But it is a really, really good Sweet 16 field. But can I go all Jimmy Fallon? You ever watch Jimmy Fallon?
It's been a long time.
People still watch late night
I don't know.
TV?
Yeah, I don't, but it's been a long time. I'll see some Jimmy highlights.
So one of the things he does is he writes like his thank you letters.
Okay.
He's like, thank you. I think we should say, finally, we should say, thank you, Creighton, Oregon. Thank you, Alabama, Grand Canyon. Thank you, Audie Crooks, Iowa State, Stanford women. Thank you, Texas A&M, Houston, for saving the opening weekend of March Madness. Because as chalky as it was, and as exciting as one or two games were, it took us 35 games into March Madness before we got a buzzer beater, and that was last night in just a Texas A&M doesn't, because we'll talk about Texas A&M's first game in the tournament. Texas A&M does not play normal basketball games, and last night against Houston, they did not. They were down 74-61. Houston had a 99% win probability at that point.
Yep.
But then Texas A&M hits a shot at the end of regulation. We go to overtime, and Houston has no players. They got four starters that have fouled out. They're looking for the graduate manager. They were checking to see if Nance sitting up in the crowd rooting for his alma mater.
Looking good, by the way.
And Houston wins in overtime, but it took us 35 games to get to a buzzer beater. I would say that up until late Saturday night, and then those games that I mentioned yesterday, March Madness has kind of been And we got a save at the end. It was like Mariano Rivera coming out of the bullpen to get a save so that the opening weekend goes, okay, we got something.
Well, and it was your lasting impressions, too, on Saturday night because you got Creighton and Oregon. And then last night, you get Houston and A&M. Now, I'm sorry, no disrespect to the the San Diego State game. But, yeah, like your last impression was, okay, good, I can go to bed now because that was awesome. Didn't think that was even going to be remotely possible. Like when LJ Cryer fouled out, and what was it? Still a 6-point game at that point with about a minute 15-ish. And they mentioned, "Ooh, this is a big moment. Keep your eye on this." I kind of laughed inside to myself of that ain't gonna matter. It's this thing's over. They just need to knock down some throws, and it turned out to be a big deal. And then so as soon as he hits that buzzer beater, I immediately kind of gave myself a mental slap of, "Ooh, LJ Cryer is not available in overtime." And then Sharp goes out. Then Shed goes out. He already had Francis out. So that was impressive. But, and I know we'll get into Friday's game. You were there, and a lot of the big takeaways, I've heard it to the level of almost nauseum, is the athletic edge that A&M and Houston had, or A&M had over Nebraska. And you saw it play out last night. And a lot of praise because he lit up Nebraska. But Wade Taylor, can we just say this? He's a fine player. Don't get me wrong. My God, he takes the worst shots. I don't know what the hell he's doing. When they had a chance to tie it up with 9 seconds to go, what the hell was that? The first shot he takes. That was, and I know in the replay, like it looks kind of like it's on the line. But if I'm Buzz Williams, what the hell are you doing? And that was all night.
Yeah, he'd missed 100 shots.
Oh,
and
my
all of a sudden he started to make some shots.
Yeah.
Texas A&M has played normal games. But this sport is ridiculous. There is nothing like March Madness. Well, even if it took 35 games to get a buzzer beater, man, you get that 1 or 2 games that make up for the other kind of yawners.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit there, and as I turned off the TV last night, and the second straight night, it was tough to go to bed. I mean, what time do people fall asleep after the Creighton Oregon game?
Oh, hell, that was 11 our time is. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I mean, 1, 2 in the morning?
12:30 our time. Yeah, it's like 1:30 there.
I mean, after watching the Texas A&M Houston game, yeah, you needed a smoke.
Mm-hmm.
But this sport is ridiculous. This time of the year, it is absolutely ridiculous on things that happen and narratives that are formed and heroes that are anointed at this time of the year on the opening weekend. And again, we like chaos. We didn't really get chaos, but man, do we have a fantastic Sweet 16. The average seed is 3.3. Yeah, we want chaos the first couple of days, and then we want it to settle in, and then we want the big boys and the best teams to play on the next weekend. And that's essentially what we got. We have a very, North Carolina State has turned into a Cinderella, and they're one of the best stories of the last 2 weeks of what they did in the ACC and what they've done in the NCAA tournament. But we get a great Sweet 16 that includes another late night on Friday night, where they announced the start times late last night, and Creighton and Tennessee will play in Detroit at 9:09. It's kind of like Mork and Mindy. 9:09.
2 words that I said to the phone before I slammed it down and went to sleep.
There you go. Negative Jimmy has shown up only 18 minutes into the show.
On a Monday.
Play any later in Detroit.
You got a Saturday. What are you complaining about?
No, it's Friday.
Yeah, but you got a Saturday.
But you got Saturday to rest.
You sleep in. Brother.
I got you. I got you.
This is March. Nobody sleeps. John Rothstein tells you, don't sleep until May. By the way, John Rothstein, did he get shut down? Brad Brownell from Clemson.
Clemson.
So John Rothstein is on this push of the Big Two. he tried to interview Brad Brownell after they won yesterday against Baylor. He shut him down. He wasn't interested in talking to him. Like 2 quick responses to questions, and then he just moved on. And I was like, good on you.
And then John blocked him on Twitter.
But this is, so we learned, you learn as you go here of what you need in March. Sometimes the older teams are doing well. Like, you get old, stay old.
Mm-hmm.
And those teams have performed well. Hell, North Carolina, their average age, they're older than the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Even though the Oklahoma City Thunder have more players in NCAA tournament commercials than the North Carolina players have. But older teams with good guard play, teams that are smart, that have good basketball IQ, that also take advantage. You don't necessarily have to have 8 to 10 guys available, but you take advantage of the length of NCAA tournament games, especially timeouts and at halftime where they've added 5 minutes. But sometimes it just comes down to the simple, it's okay to say out loud, we survived. Because that's what Creighton did. Creighton survived and they advanced. That's what this time of the year is. You cannot overlook that Oregon kept the door open for a really good basketball team to have an opportunity to extend their season. If I was an Oregon fan, I still would not have slept by the decision-making at the end of regulation. First of all, that game was about as bizarre as it could be. You could make a strong case that Creighton should have been up 50.
Oh, God,
in the game.
The first half?
Especially in the first 10 minutes.
Yes, the amount of shots they had.
They had so many open looks that were not falling, and you're wondering, okay, what is Oregon doing? Because Oregon can't keep up with the ball movement by Creighton. This is going to be a one-sided affair. And then you look up at the scoreboard and you get to that last under 4 immediate timeout, and you're going, how is Oregon still in this game? And how are they all of a sudden ahead?
Right.
But Creighton just simply survived. They survived because Oregon, Oregon had, I looked at that play many times. It was a complete brain fart that Oregon let down Dana Altman. Creighton backed up Mac. It was a great coaching performance by both sides, Mac and Dana. Okay, they were going back and forth, whether it be the eroticism of Mac out of timeouts with what they run as sideline out of bounds plays.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like that's basketball porn for anybody that gets into that kind of stuff. It just is. But you had at times you had clutch shot making.
Yeah.
You had great adjustments on both sides. But Oregon let down their head coach because they had a brain fart at the worst moment. Why in God's green earth would you have a 60% free throw shooter who, along with Kuznard, had carried your team in the second half? Why is he anywhere near the basketball?
He should be on the other end of the court on the free throw line.
So that a freshman could get rattled and I just got to get the ball and bounce.
Right.
Or why Kuznard, and I know he was gassed. I mean, it was 2-on-5. And Oregon was winning with 2-on-5, which is a little unsettling. But why didn't he make a move to come get the ball as one of their better free throw shooters? Just a complete brain fart. They inbound it to a 60% free throw shooter. He misses, and they leave the door open for Creighton to have a chance to extend their season. And Shireman gets to a good spot, hits the shot to tie it, send it into overtime. And then in overtime, you're thinking Oregon's done. And then they hit a 3 to tie the game at 71. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But once they got to the second overtime,
cooked.
Oregon was gassed, and Creighton found a new life, and they hit the X button, and then that looked like what the game should have looked like in the first 10 minutes when Creighton had every open shot amongst men, women, and children in America and just couldn't hit them.
Yeah,
but you survive. It's okay to say, hey, we survived. We survived because we got a chance, and you have to be mentally stronger. You have to make the right plays. You can't have brain farts, and we didn't in key moments, and we took advantage of it, and then the second overtime hit.
And that's where there's certain teams that when they do survive, you look at the way that they did survive and you say, yeah, that's some fool's gold right there. I think Kansas was a great example of that. Okay, Kansas survived Sanford. The way that game played out, especially in the second half between Kansas and Gonzaga, I don't think that shocked anybody. I think most Kansas fans probably knew that you were on borrowed time, that, okay, cool, you made it to the round of 32. It's not going much further than that. First half, entertaining to some extent. Once you got in the second half, Gonzaga they smoked them. And you knew that was the product of a limited team. When I'm watching Creighton in that first half, like you said, the ability not to match up, all those things that Oregon needs to do defensively, they couldn't do it. I made this analogy during Connor and I's halftime conversation, and that was Oregon looked like a heavyweight boxer that was just completely gassed. They're trying to clinch up and then throwing a few jabs, try to flick a few jabs just to try to keep them honest. They're literally walking the ball up at half court. You could see Couisnard looking over at Dana Altman. I mean, we're talking about the first 8 to 10 minutes of this game, looking over at the sideline, deliberately trying to slow the pace down because they would get caught up in that pace, and they knew that they couldn't be in that pace. They knew that they couldn't switch in time. I mean, the amount of wide open looks that Creighton had, you knew those things exist in the second half. You might miss a lot of those in the first half like Creighton did. If you cannot match up there, those are going to start falling. And I remember both of us had mentioned Stephen Ashworth because he had some of the best looks out of any Creighton player in the first half. Said if he is still getting those looks, he's going to knock those down. It's only a matter of time. And lo and behold, he did, especially in the second overtime. He got those looks. The Jason Green, that rebound and that putback was awesome. But Ashworth's ability to hit some shots there at the end. And you mentioned Baylor Shireman's buzzer beater, or not buzzer beater, but game tired to put it into overtime was obviously huge. But yeah, I mean, all three of the big three had their moments too. But it was like watching the second overtime. I think I tweeted this out. That was one overtime too many for Oregon. They had zero left. Creighton could have went probably another 2 or 3 and gave you a pretty decent product. And that's what happens when you have, literally, you were led by 2 players in the second half. That was your scoring for Oregon.
Oh, it was
nuts.
It was 2 on 5, and they were beating Creighton.
Yes.
I mean, that is the cruelty of the NCAA tournament. Couisnard has 32, and he's unreal in his shot making, but it comes down to 1 or 2 plays. I say, well, it never does, but in this case, it kind of did. It came down to 1 or 2 plays late in the game where you had a brain fart.
Yeah, anybody to follow Dante.
And Creighton is too good to leave the door open. They're too veteran driven that they're not going to respond with another brain fart because they've got a freshman inbounding the basketball. Along the way, and that's what I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I got a little pushback. I said, hey, congratulations, you survived. And they're like, no. And I said, yeah, you did. That's what this is about. Yeah. This time of the year is survive and advance. It's a one and done. And it's okay to say, we survived, we advanced, because except for UConn, who is a wagon right now and has won 8 straight NCAA games by an average of 22 points, you have one of these games along the way in a championship season, which you go, whoa, there were so many moments not to win that game, but we found a way.
Yep.
That's the beauty of this time of the year. And you go, whew, it's a relief. We move on. Now we get ready for Tennessee, which will be a really, really good Sweet 16 game where Creighton is a 2.5-point underdog against the best defense that they'll face all year.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about winning at the end by holding on a dear life. I don't think that always gives you the best feeling going into the next game, whether it's a one-day turnaround or an entire week you're going into the next set of games. In that Creighton-Oregon game, again, they were in a lot of those key moments there towards the end of regulation. They are battling back. They weren't holding on for dear life. And this is, again, where I use that comparison. If you watch Kansas Gonzaga versus Creighton and Oregon, the amount of open looks, there are going to be nights where Creighton just knocks those down. I mean, ask UConn about that, where they're getting the same looks and those shots are falling. You somehow, when those shots aren't falling at the clip that you need them to, yet you still win, you should feel good about that, because everything from an execution standpoint, from your sets, the way that you were able to scout, the way that you were able to get the looks that were designed, part of the game plan, that the shots just didn't fall. I think this team well enough to say, we're going to have those moments, but when we're not knocking those shots down, what are we doing to still put ourselves in a position to win a basketball game? That's what they did. And so that's why I think the way that game played out, you've seen enough of Creighton where, hey, everything from a design standpoint looked really, really good. Just knocking those shots down, that was the key. And
you mean, whoa, that's a narrative, Nick? Because in a make or miss sport, Friday night, Memphis. Okay, just checking.
Right.
Okay, just checking. We're gonna circle back to that. It's a make or miss sport.
And that's the thing, though, is if you're missing those shots, yet a team like Oregon is giving you an opening, I wouldn't say this. Not every team in that tournament is going to be able to take that opening. It is the good teams that do that. So for Creighton fans that maybe were a little discouraged by that, I would echo your sentiments of that is a classic example of survival. You reset and you still feel like you've got just as good of a shot as anybody this weekend to get to that next set of games. Just the way that game played out.
It's a relief. It's a 29-75. Now, as strange as that game was, the back end, they were 6 for the first 25 from 3-point range, and then finished 9 of 14, including Kalkbrenner taking and hitting a 3.
Oh, you leave me
in
open
the second overtime.
Right.
Just a wild Marchish type game that happened late night in Pittsburgh, and Creighton is still alive. And don't dwell on it; just move on. You're still playing. They're one of 16 teams that are still playing. Now, I will tell you, at the end of the first overtime, I was cheering my brains out for Oregon. I was like clapping. I was even going, defense, defense, because I had the over. Because I had the over.
Yeah.
And I thought if we get to another overtime, that over, which seemed in jeopardy, is finally going to hit. And it did in the second
Isn't
overtime.
that crazy? It took 2 overtimes for that one to actually happen. Yeah. I mean, you think of it, 86-73, that's a 40-minute game in most games. That took 2 overtimes right there, too. Again, give Creighton some credit right there. The way that game was trending, that's an uncomfortable game for Creighton. And they were able to still make it happen.
Yeah, because if you lose a game like that, that will linger for a long, long time. You're up to 20 or the 25 seconds. You're up to, and you inbound the ball to a 60% free throw shooter.
Yep.
What in the heck were you doing?
Yep.
What were you doing? And they panned to Dana right away.
Oh, yes.
And he knew exactly. But Couisnard, man, I know that you are about on E, even though even in the first overtime, he's like, well, that guy looks exactly the same. You got to come get the ball, my friend.
Yeah.
You got to come get the basketball. And they got the ball into a 60% free throw shooter who should have been nowhere near where he was on the floor and missed the free throw. And they left the door open for Creighton, and Creighton walked right through it. Creighton's too good. You can't, if you're Oregon, when you have a chance to extinguish a team and pull an upset in March, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And Creighton walked right through that door, and they said, thank you very much. They continued the game. And then I thought the game was over in the first overtime. It's 71-68. And out of nowhere, here comes a 3. Bam.
Yeah.
But the second overtime was pretty clear. Oregon was out of gas. Creighton found a whole new life, and that looked like a more familiar Creighton team, where for 45 minutes it was like, I'm not sure who the heck those guys are.
And to add some cruelty to Oregon, and with Dane Hallman, when he's just got his head hanging the whole time, and then all of a sudden he perks right up and looks at Dante and goes, hey, let's go. But it was in the first, minute, or I think it was in the first minute of the first overtime. Nafali Dante goes to the free throw line, hits both free throws. It's like, Jesus, I really did feel for Oregon, and especially for Couisnard, because the effort that he put forth, not that these guys don't give maximum effort, but to literally, between he and Dante, put a team on your back. And you're right. I mean, it was 5-on-2, and Oregon was winning that game. They make one free throw in that situation, because it was 4-5 with just over a minute. You're thinking, wow, Creighton is in major trouble here. Actually, inside of a minute, Creighton's in a lot of trouble here. All of that, the position that Oregon had themselves in with maybe 55 seconds left, was because of those two. And so you feel awful for those guys with that type of effort, that type of production, with literally no help around you.
Well, and they tried to help themselves, because for about the last 10 minutes of regulation, they were walking the ball up the floor to try and conserve some energy. I thought Creighton could have hedged a little bit earlier on him, but what they did in the first overtime, I mean, they knew that, okay, we got into the first overtime. He's out of gas. We got to do something. And Mac's adjustment to double right away when Couisnard touched the ball and make a decision real quick, or get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah,
that was a wise move. That I don't know why they didn't go to that earlier, but they got an opportunity in the first overtime, and that was a key difference. But it was 2-on-5. Oregon almost won an NCAA basketball game essentially playing 2-on-5.
Yeah.
I mean, Couisnard is sick. He had 40 against South Carolina. He had 32 against Creighton. The times of the elite shot making on both sides in that game. I mean, it was just
he was chasing down Lou Alcindor.
It was an intense game. It at the time was the best game of the tournament until last night came between Texas A&M and Houston. But it's okay to say outlasted him.
Absolutely.
Played 15 minutes of basketball, outlasted him, and didn't go to bed until 2:30 in the morning, and we play again on Friday night against Tennessee.
100%.
That's how the tournament works. That's the beauty of the tournament. There were the highs and the high level of coaching adjustments that were going on in that game, the clutch shot making at times, and it came down to the core four for Creighton came through, and then they added the rest of the team. I mean, Jason Green had a moment. Everybody, it seemed like, had a moment during the course of the game to hit a shot or make a play. And that's how Creighton is built. That's why they are still alive, and that's why they are one of the teams that is a favorite to get to Arizona. I mean, they would have busted a lot of brackets, I know, around here.
Yeah, I think everybody.
I would have been ticked off, man. I had a pretty good second round. That would not have been good for my bracket.
Yeah, the Kentucky thing kind of screwed me. Other than that,
and them.
Other than that,
but we do live in a Sweet 16 town.
Yes, we do,
because we got Creighton and Tennessee again. They play at 9:09 in Detroit on Friday night, and Omaha hockey last night found out they're going to Sioux Falls to take on Minnesota as a 3 seed, the Golden Gophers, who last year lost to Quinnipiac in overtime in the final, and this year kind of a semi-host. It's back in St. Paul, but Sioux Falls is up, and Omaha is one of the final 16 teams after making it to the NCHC final in St. Paul on Saturday night before falling to Denver 4-1. So this is kind of a sweet town, right?
It is.
Smells sweet. It's raining outside.
Yeah. Springs in the
It's
air.
Sweet 16. This is it's not only the come down from the weekend that was, but also it is a great sports week because we have NFL owners meetings. We have opening day of Major League Baseball coming up on Thursday. Storm Chasers open up on Friday. We got Sweet 16 hockey. We got Sweet 16 basketball. What else am I missing? I mean, this is one of those great weeks in sports because it's also 3 of the 4 major sports going on. And then, oh, by the way, college basketball has their unbelievable Sweet 16. Nebraska women are done. They got beat by Oregon State last night. Creighton women are into the round of 32. They take on UCLA coming up tonight at 7:30. 11:80 or 16:20?
Tonight's on 11:80.
All right.
All of them.
Yeah. And we got to mention, just not because Connor and I are doing games lately, but Creighton baseball taking 2 of Stanford. They got the 3rd today. So
you know what?
Stanford's not the same Stanford team. It is very, very true. But hey, going on the road, taking 2 from Stanford, and then having a chance for a 3-game series sweep in Palo Alto. That's
expect
nothing.
Nebraska possibly be ranked today.
Yep, I think
Nebraska
they will be.
is rolling. The thing about the Creighton, and you're absolutely right. It's impressive to go to Sunken Diamond and win the first 2, especially how they won yesterday.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, when you need some help in a 1-bid conference, and when you schedule that, you're like, wow, Stanford's been to the College World Series 3 straight years. Of all years that Creighton plays Stanford and picks up at least 2 victories,
right there,
Stanford is not very good.
Right.
They're 9-11.
Now, the good news for Creighton with that is you will have Coastal Carolina coming later April for a 2-game midweek series too. So there's another chance there to get out of conference and get something there, hopefully. But still stacking a lot of wins right now for Creighton.
April 2nd, first Nebraska-Creighton matchup.
I think it's going to be fun.
All right. The lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard, who has a lot of decisions to make because there was some bad officiating in college basketball this weekend, not just on the women's side, but also on the men's side. The lineup brought to you by Higgy, who was front and center for the regional here in Omaha, which I think the fans were more of the story than the games. I don't think we're going to get any one shining moments out of Omaha.
Yeah, the games were very.
Yeah, they just
kind of forgot
Duquesne
they were
was a
going on.
nice first round story.
The fans were the bigger story for the Omaha Regional than the games were.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, we don't get to keep Iowa State and Illinois because they got to go to Boston to play in what should be an unbelievable Sweet 16 game. Why don't they just play in the Quad Cities?
Right?
Why do they have to go all the way to Boston? Why don't they kind of meet halfway between?
Yeah.
Go to the Quad Cities. I think the arena is called the Mark.
Okay.
They could play right there instead of going all the way to Boston.
What does it seat?
I don't know. It's like an 8,000 seat arena.
Hey, intimate gathering.
The Missouri Valley Conference has their women's tournament there.
Okay.
All right, Tim Kruger will stop by. His thoughts on the weekend. He's back from Pittsburgh after the exhilarating Saturday night into Sunday morning, which made sense to have that game scheduled for 10 p.m. local time, then got pushed back with the overtime between North Carolina State and Oakland. Weird scheduling all weekend. I don't get and this, maybe I need Matt Painter to chime in on this because he now wants to chime in on everything, of the weird scheduling on when you pick games to start and where. Like Saturday, the early start was in Salt Lake City. The late start was in Pittsburgh. And then how they do the stacking of the Sunday games.
Yeah.
Where, you got the three right out of the box on CBS, and then we go to double headers.
Right.
Weird scheduling. Maybe Tim knows more about that. So he'll join us coming up at 8. Jacob Bigelow back from Memphis. Amy Just back from Memphis as well. They'll stop by. You can stop by. Thoughts on the weekend. Creighton will get to Nebraska. Everything I said on Friday holds true. I took the emotion out of it, and I told you exactly what was going to happen. I wasn't surprised. I was not surprised. I was surprised at one particular thing of what Nebraska did in that game that I did not expect, that I thought they'd had extinguished with this team. But it came out on Friday, and I was a little bit disappointed. So we'll get into the Nebraska Texas A&M game.
Crowd was incredible, though. That was the takeaway. That was cool. Those first couple minutes.
It's there's
the hair had to be standing on your back, on your neck.
Yeah, I mean it's the Nebraska fan base, man.
Mm-hmm.
They keep showing up. There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't, but they keep showing up, and it's going to happen someday, right? Law of averages.
It will.
I think it will, and there'll be a big crowd.
And
for
when it does, it probably makes it sweeter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in what happened on Friday night and what will happen next for Nebraska basketball. So we'll get into that in the next segment. You can always join the show on the 42 Degree The Source hotline, 951-1620, or in the Equitable Bank inbox. I'm sure we'll hear from Doug here shortly.
We already have.
Oh, we have?
Yeah.
I've not checked my email. Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley, 1620thezone.com.
Also in the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley, 1620.
All right, we are off and running. Lots to discuss on a great weekend of sports and what is ahead. That'll include a Sweet 16 hockey and a Sweet 16 men's basketball. Could also include a Sweet 16 women's basketball, depending on what Creighton does tonight against UCLA. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
Trees, are they all the same? Not Atlanta, huh? Grown from a quality seed source, handcrafted in our local farms for generations, and acclimated to our tough Midwestern climate, Lanaha's trees are different. Simply put, they're better. Much like our trees, we take great pride in being homegrown. Visit our garden center to find your next tree today. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanaha Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha frequently conducts clinical trials for a broad range of investigational treatments. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, infectious diseases, acne, and others. Some current studies include low T, COPD, flu, pediatric, infant, and RSV. They also perform vaccine studies for people of all ages, conducting innovative research that has a positive impact online. See current trials at velocityclinicaltrials.com. Compensation for study-related time and travel. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
Looking for a sweet treat that will transport you back into time? Look no further than Ted and Wally's. With 2 convenient locations in Benson and the Old Market, it's the perfect place to satisfy your cravings. Whether you're downtown or in Benson, make sure to stop in. And if you're catching a basketball game, why not indulge in a delicious dessert afterwards? With over 3,000 flavors to choose from, there's something for everyone. Don't forget to check out our social media for daily flavors. Ted and Wally's, serving up nostalgia at its finest for over 35 years. Visit tedandwallys.com for more information.
Welcome to RV ready. Brought to you by Leach Camper Sales in Council Bluffs. Looks like Mother Nature's on the line.
I just had to call. We're getting things ready for everyone to head out camping again. There's so many places to see and so many things to do, and I know Leach Camper Sales can help.
You're right. People should go to leachcamper.com and check out the inventory.
Oh, and the 2024s are all in.
Head to leachcamper.com or stop by Leach Camper Sales in Council Bluffs.
And don't forget,
the coffee's always on.
Of course it is.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
The world's largest sportsbook in Las Vegas is available right at your fingertips in Iowa. The Circa Sports Iowa app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Iowa and experience high betting limits, tight money line splits, and exceptional customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Email us on the Equitable Bank inbox with whatever is on your mind. The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can get me, Gary, at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, again, if you have not heard, Creighton and Tennessee will play at 9:09 on Friday night. 9:09.
I heard that.
After Purdue and Gonzaga. That is a nice little Sweet 16.
No.
Purdue's playing well.
Yeah.
Zach Edey, he's doing well because he's tall.
Mm-hmm. That's all he is. He's just tall.
Matt Painter. I've gone in and out with Matt Painter. That guy just drove me nuts. And
Sticking up for his boys.
And then I fell for his act because he was nice to me.
Yeah. Oh,
that'll West Lafayette.
That'll happen.
Hey, that'll do it.
Okay,
Bill Callahan was nice to me.
And then I was like,
yeah.
No.
Isn't that funny how everyone's perception of a coach is one way, but it just takes one interaction where it's really positive. You're like, you know what? He's not such a bad guy.
Yeah. All right, we will share some thoughts on the Nebraska game. I said it on Friday because I took the emotional part out of it. If you look closely at the matchup, I'm actually not surprised what happened between Texas A&M and Nebraska. I think Nebraska made a huge mistake at the beginning of the game. I will explain that. But let's talk to Andrew, who joins us now. What time did you go to bed there into Sunday morning after the Creighton, Oregon game?
I can sleep anytime.
You'll sleep in May, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can sleep. I could fall asleep right now if you ask me to.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
good for your students.
Why was there's two things I want to bring up, maybe three things. But why was the guy who shoots 60%? Couldn't you have a backup guard? Why was he in the game?
Well, because they really didn't have anybody else. Yeah. That was the problem. Shellstead got injured.
Mm-hmm.
I know that.
Maybe they could have had there was one other option, just listening to some Oregon fans. But I don't know. If you're going to keep him in the game, he's the last person I would want anywhere near the ball.
Yeah. Oh,
you keep him.
Yeah, they even
way back.
And And I'm sure.
They even,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, and I'm sure Dana said, you know what? This is where, just remember, guys, where we want the ball to go. But nobody was moving as well.
No.
I mean, the one thing he became available is Creighton's like, that guy only shoots 60%. He at least moved towards the basketball.
Yeah,
nobody else did. And you got a freshman inbounding.
They were a split second away from a 5-second count there too.
Yeah, there were only two people that came to the front court was their guard, and then Dante that came up the side, who was wide open. But anyways, how about the conditioning of the Creighton people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their conditioning, there's something's got to be said about their conditioning. It's phenomenal. These guys are playing all these games, and I don't want to see another Iowa State fan again for a long time. God, they're annoying.
Did you have a run-in this weekend?
What?
Did you have a run-in with an Iowa State fan this weekend? Because they were everywhere in Omaha.
No, they're just they're just obnoxious, man.
Well, they got a team that definitely they can root for. All right, Andrew. Well, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, Illinois will smoke them.
If Illinois commits to defense, because offensively they're scary, and it's not just Terrence Shannon. If they commit to defense, but that's the most aggressive, in-your-face defense that they're going to face all season long.
Well, Shannon, to me, is probably the fastest player off the dribble that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
that kid he's God, I would love to have him on our team. But he is amazing. Yeah.
All right.
But and I'll say something about the Nebraska game. Maybe you have to get there first and understand the moment. Maybe the moment it's something to learn from. I don't know. They seemed a little rushed at times.
Yeah, I think the matchup zone, which they didn't really have a ton of problems with. I don't know. They kind of went in and out of looking like normal Creighton to looking like, I've seen this a time or two when they end up on the wrong end. Like, Kalkbrenner was a force in the first half. It took a while for them to find him in the second half. You know, they didn't really find him again until overtime and, of course, the second overtime. I think, and Andrew, thanks for the phone call, I think of all the impressive things Creighton has done this year, and it's not only strength and conditioning, but I think mental toughness is a pretty mentally strong team, is what they did in the second overtime is going to rank as one of the more impressive things that Creighton has done the entire season. For them to look like it was just the start of the game.
Yeah.
And then to realize that they could put their foot on the gas, and Oregon was gassed, and to blitz them like they did. What was it, 15-2 in the second overtime?
Yeah. You got a point guard in Kuznard who is literally coming across the timeline and is doubled over, just trying to gain more time so he can get more air. I mean, essentially using that as if he was sitting on the bench for a few seconds, and then Creighton is just bouncing all over the place. The movement was the same as it was in the first 5 minutes.
And they went for the kill shot. Yeah. I mean, they sensed it. They knew it. So strength and conditioning, yes, but also the mental toughness happened there. I don't know. I'm looking already ahead to Tennessee. And against the top 30 adjusted defensive teams this year that Creighton has played, they're 5-6.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee will be the best in terms of the metrics, the best defensive team that they have seen. When you're not hitting threes against Tennessee, and Tennessee didn't hit threes, but they were great on defense against Texas and getting to the Sweet 16. Tennessee can rely on their defense. If Creighton is not hitting the barrage of threes, then what are they able to rely on against Tennessee? But simply, for me, looking at Creighton, if they hit threes and they shoot a lot of threes, they're fine.
Yep.
What is their go-to? What is their go-to if they have a night like Providence in the Big East tournament? Or against Oregon, where they went 6 for their first 25.
Mm-hmm.
What is the next thing that they can do? Against a team that is built the same, or you might be just a shade above you, like Tennessee will be.
Yeah.
Already a 2.5-point underdog.
Yeah, and that's the part of this game that I as much as in the last segment I said, if you're Creighton, you look at a lot of the things you did from a design standpoint and you feel more than adequate about, you had the right game plan, you had the right design, everything that you're doing. And I know we see this with Mac every now and then. After every make or miss that Oregon had, Mac was so animated in getting those guys down the other side of the floor in transition because it did not allow them to match up. It didn't allow them to get the type of defensive look that they wanted to have. And so they knew from the get-go that was going to be the point of emphasis. They just didn't have the shots falling. My biggest question now is if you have a similar start when it comes to just cold shooting like that, where you're still getting some looks, but you're having that type of night shooting, this is where I look at Tennessee compared to Oregon and say, well, you've got three capable guys, right off the top of the head between Connect, Edu, and Ziegler. It's not a two-man show there too. So that's where you got to hope, if that's the case, that Tennessee is also struggling to hit some shots there at the Little Caesars Arena there, because that's a little bit more of a broad team than what you saw at Oregon when it comes to their offensive production.
All right, we're going to get to Nebraska ball Mike here in just a moment. Texter Clint writes in about the Nebraska basketball fan. He said, for as long as I can remember, Nebraska basketball fans are Charlie Brown and Nebraska men's basketball is Lucy.
That's a good analogy.
So
you're right, though. It's going to happen,
after
guys.
this season for the Nebraska basketball fan, and your whole season is not summed up in one game, even though you got to let this sting for a while.
Yeah.
You got to let Friday sting for a while. You can't just all of a sudden say, okay. You have to be frustrated. And I would let it sting for a while, and then you step back and you celebrate. You know what? This was, in Nebraska basketball world, this was a really good season. And we'll learn from the whole year in what we will do next year. But it's okay to say, and I'm glad that a couple players did say it sucked. It sucked. You can't just go, at least we made it. Okay. No, you got to let it sting for a little bit. But the crowd, but this season, crowds will be back in November. They will expect the same kind of ride. And 0-8 in the NCAA tournament is not fun for anybody. But the buildup will be bigger to the next time they get to the tournament, maybe next year. And I will tell you that more people will go to wherever Nebraska is playing next year if they make the NCAA tournament, or the next time they make the tournament. Because what did you see? If you were not in Memphis, you saw pictures, and Nebraska fans were everywhere.
You had FOMO.
Everywhere. You saw pictures, you heard stories about the experience of going. There will be more people that will go the next time Nebraska basketball is in the NCAA tournament. It still every time blows me away of the loyalty and the commitment of the Nebraska fan, because there are so many things that other fan bases, they would have cashed out by now because they just keep breaking your heart no matter what sport. But Nebraska fans keep going. They keep going and going and going, and they get larger and larger and larger. And while I'm looking at the crowd on Friday in Memphis, I'm thinking, man, what will be going to just a simple bowl game be like this upcoming year?
I think you know.
I mean,
you've seen it.
But even like a 7-win bowl game. Yeah, you're right.
40,000 minimum.
People be like, holy cow, this is called the thawing of a drought.
I will tell you this. I think everybody would take the ride again this season. Yeah, Friday was disappointing.
But did you have fun this year?
You would get back on the ride.
Oh, yeah.
This season to do it once again.
Yeah.
And you just can't do it with your current roster if you want to get a step further than you got this year.
Right.
We'll get into that, because I think this week, the next 10 days for Nebraska will be very active in retention, some guys making some decisions, and also more portal activity. Let's finish the hour with Nebraska ball Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, the first 8 minutes were great.
No, they weren't.
Second of all,
no, they were not. No, they were not for Nebraska.
Hey.
Not for Nebraska basketball. For the fan, it was great. Hey, the place was rocking. There were 53 points combined in the first 10 minutes. That was one of the worst things that could have happened to Nebraska basketball on Friday.
Why in the world did their point guard turn into Steph Curry overnight? What is that?
Well, so, okay.
When do you shoot at volume like that?
I'm going to go back to what I said on Friday, because the narrative had been that Texas A&M can't shoot the 3 ball. But I watched them in Nashville all of a sudden look different. And I said, you got to be careful here. Well, for the third time in 5 games, they had made 10 or more threes. That included what happened on Friday night. So they had started to shoot it better. Now,
in a make or miss sport, they missed a lot last night against Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
But here's why I say, Mike, let me just I got to get this off my chest here, because I know we all love the first start to that game because there were buckets being made everywhere, and Tominaga was doing his thing and hitting threes, and we're going back and forth, and all of a sudden I think Paul Westphal is coaching both teams, and it's going to be 140 to 140. I wanted Nebraska to settle in, make some shots early, and then get into a moderate pace because they're not built. Like, start with their Air Jordans and then slip on the Skechers or the Hokas. Okay?
What, Gary?
Because they can't
let them settle in.
No. Because no. Nebraska got sped up. Nebraska got sped up at the beginning of that game, and they got into, hey, let's just trade threes. And they did it to themselves early, and it became hero ball. And the pace should not have been like that. After you hit a couple of shots, you settle in, you got some confidence, all right, let's lock it down. Instead, they wanted to run, and they let Texas A&M dictate it, and all of a sudden the pace was up and down the floor and not the moderate pace that I think Nebraska needed after they settled in. They let that pace go on too long, and I think Fred was uncomfortable with it. I think Buzz Williams was uncomfortable with it, even though it was playing right into their hands.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Couple more things. One, how many people want to stay on this team that are eligible to come back?
Well, why would you leave?
You really think that many people, that many kids are going to want to come back?
Okay, let me pose the question to you this way. If you had eligibility and you played this year, why wouldn't you want to come back?
Because you got outrun for 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh, Mike, you got to stop this. Okay, you're not alone.
Why?
No. You got to stop this. You're gonna sum up Nebraska's season in one game?
No. Here's what Fred Hoiberg knows what he saw Friday night. We need a guy who is going to not be afraid to hurt somebody in the paint of a basketball floor and go, you're not getting every layup and you're not getting every three.
That's Bill Laimbeer.
What you have to do.
You are
fight.
Hey, you're absolutely right. Because where was the guy when Texas A&M was feasting out beyond the arc, or they had open driving lanes? Where was that guy? And I thought it might be Alec, but he was not. There should have been a guy that put somebody on their ass.
Yes.
Okay. That was missing because Texas A&M became way too comfortable on the offensive end.
See it in the NBA.
Yes.
We're in agreement there.
And secondly, probably as important, what do we know about this guy from Seattle?
Gary.
I heard about the AD from
Troy
Seattle
Gannon?
coming in here.
I'm like, you know about a transfer that we need to be looking at right now? Yeah. Oh, Troy Gannon. Okay.
Didn't I hear about the AD from Seattle coming in here?
Yeah. What about him?
Or not?
He's here.
He's swell.
What do we know?
Well, it'll be officially announced tomorrow.
Tune in.
He's a popular guy. Took a lot of selfies. He's not as popular as Matt Rule.
Who is?
Okay.
Been on a lot of committees.
Said it a couple times. It's a good fit for Nebraska.
Has his own yogurt.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, can we find somebody else other than Johnny Manziel?
He added a lot. He added some more tattoos as well.
Dude, go back to your car dealership. Nobody cares.
Car dealer. Is that what he's doing?
Wow.
I think he's going to try and play in the Arena Football League.
Yeah. He's got a nice home in Arizona.
Yeah.
Know that.
Hope he can stay straight.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
It's the rain.
Great year. They know what they got to do. I hope they get back. It won't take 10 years.
It better not take 10 years.
That'd be a problem.
I know that for sure. Mike, thanks for the phone call. There's a lot in the wrap-up of this season and what has to happen with the roster. I'll leave this, and then we gotta get to Jimmy's update after the top of the hour. What I watched on Friday, Nebraska unfortunately played Illinois in back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
Really kind of in three halves. They played Illinois for 3 straight halves in the kind of game that happened in the second half in Minneapolis and then the whole game as well.
Right.
Here's the thing that I would really, if I was Fred, and Fred's smart enough to know that, man, I don't hate the matchup, but necessarily I don't like a lot of the stuff of the matchup. I think guys got their dauber down. I think their confidence
drop during that game, and that's the thing
absolutely.
that I would really, really, really sit with this week is I thought we had cured that. It's a sport. It's a make or miss sport. Sometimes they're better than you are. You have to live with that.
Yeah.
But for Nebraska's confidence to drop a level, I thought they'd overcome that. And on their biggest stage, it came back kind of like the Creighton game when Creighton blew out Nebraska down at PBA. I saw that. That's the tough part for me if I'm Fred. It's going to linger for a little bit and add to, okay, what do we have to do to get over that?
And I know we're going to hit a break here real quickly. I don't know if you guys were thinking this in the studio, or I think a lot of other people were. I was kind of to your point of being over that moment of just getting bested in the first half the way that they did. And a lot of the things that we were concerned about with this matchup played out, especially with how athletic inside and the second chance opportunities Texas A&M was getting. But I still had the Wisconsin game in the back of my head, knowing that you could
the game in Madison or
in Lincoln, that you could draw from that, despite playing a bad half of basketball where a team just threw haymaker after haymaker after haymaker, and at times just overwhelmed Nebraska, that they could kind of go back to that. All right, you regroup, you reset, and where you talk about having the confidence down. You saw that. Remember the first 5 minutes of that second half against Wisconsin, where you're like, "Ooh, game on." First 5 minutes of this second half, you thought, no shot.
Yep.
The balloon deflated, and that was that.
That's what happens in when it comes down to a one-game season. All right, update with Jimmy coming up. We got Tim Kruger, Jacob Bigelow, Amy Just still to come, and we got spring football that is starting. But it's basketball.
Started.
It is basketball. More on Creighton and Nebraska. Also, the NCAA tournament as a whole, because there is a conference narrative out there that I think is very much incorrect, unless the narrative is Creighton, Marquette, and UConn all were really, really good. They just happen to play in the Big East. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center, there's a crash block in the left lane on the ramp from westbound I-80 to northbound I-680. Over on Blair High Military Ave in Fort, there is a disabled vehicle in the area. Everything else is smooth sailing from here on out. There's no need to worry about being late to your destination. I'll keep you updated throughout the morning once traffic starts to pick up. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
It's the Nebraska Lottery Spring Game Promotion. From March 12th through March 25th, play Lucky for Life and enter the voucher number online. You can win skybox seats to the NU football spring game and more. Lucky for Life top prize odds, 1 in 30 million.
Looking for a sweet treat that will transport you back into time? Look no further than Ted and Wally's. With 2 convenient locations in Benson and the Old Market, it's the perfect place to satisfy your cravings. Whether you're downtown or in Benson, make sure to stop in. And if you're catching a basketball game, why not indulge in a delicious dessert afterwards? With over 3,000 flavors to choose from, there's something for everyone. Don't forget to check out our social media for daily flavors. Ted and Wally's, serving up nostalgia at its finest for over 35 years. Visit tedandwallys.com for more information.
Car repair is car repair. Most places you go can change your oil or fix your brakes. The difference is the experience you'll get at Omaha Car Care. We're part of the community. We were born here, and we believe that our relationship with you should be built to last. We're going to consult you, not sell you. We're going to give you a free loaner car. We're going to treat you like a valued friend that we want to continue to see in the years to come. I'm Rick Betker, owner of Omaha Car Care, and we'll be along for the ride.
His voice is often mistaken for a dial tone. He is the most uninteresting man in the world.
Hi, I'm Bob Berger. I'm still the most uninteresting man in the world. But if you're tired of losing sleep over business and personal taxes, payroll and employee benefits, financial statements and QuickBooks, call me.
Call Berger, Elliott, and Pritchard CPAs at 402-551-1919 or visit bepcpa.com.
O'Reilly. Need a little help? O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Need advice?
we've got advice. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Exceptional customer service. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hear that? The sound of your antique fountain pen gliding across linen paper as you journal in the park. And if you were here, you'd be inspired by the warm breeze. But you're not here. Because your self-care happens out on the road, riding your motorcycle protected by Progressive. And the wind in your face on the road is all the inspiration you need. So if you ride, get a quote and see if you could save with Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Now that's inspiring. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
So the space bar's broken. All right. Omaha hockey falls in the Frozen Faceoff Championship 4-1 to Denver. A night after they throttled North Dakota 6-3. I mean, you knew that, but you got to point that out again because, well, they beat North Dakota 6-3. Now they qualify for the NCAA tournament. Well, they will face the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. The Mavericks will be the host school, but instead of Baxter Arena, they'll host it in the far, far north Omaha suburb of Sioux Falls, the one in South Dakota. The game will be Thursday night at 7:30. The 8th-ranked Gophers are looking for their 6th national championship. They have a very rich history in hockey going back to the great Gordon Bombay. Jazz Shelley scores 10 points, grabs 6 rebounds, dishes 7 assists in her final game as a Husker. But as Boys to Men once famously said, it is the end of the road for the Nebraska women's basketball team. They fall 61-51 to Oregon State. Game was not the shootout that the final score appears. It stayed the same score for most of the third quarter. That was in the second round of the NCAA tournament at the Gill Coliseum in Corvallis. The Huskers finished with a 23-12 overall record, 11-7 in the Big Ten. Of course, the Stellars showing at the Big 12 tournament. Or Big Ten tournament, sorry, had a flashback. The Beavers improved to 26-7 overall, and they will head to the Sweet 16 next week in Albany. Baseball limited to 4 hits over the first innings. The Creighton offense didn't miss its chance. In the ninth, as the Blue Jays played at 8 runs on 7 hits in the final frame to take an 8-2 win over Stanford. The win lifts the Blue Jays to 17-3 on the season. Stanford falls to 9-11. Creighton women's basketball against UCLA in the second round of the NCAA tournament at Poly Pavilion tonight at 7:30. Nebraska baseball and softball both were canceled yesterday because spring decided to take a short timeout, but it'll come back later this week. Other college basketball news, West Virginia hit a grand slam yesterday. They hired Darren DeVries as their next men's basketball head coach. That is a damn good hire, and there's no biases there. That is legit. The sides agree to a 5-year deal. D-Rock had emerged as one of the country's top mid-major coaches in recent years, leading Drake to the NCAA tournament in 3 of the past 4 seasons. He won at least 25 games in each of the past 4 seasons, has a record of 150-55 over 6 campaigns at Drake. He takes over a WVU program that went 9-23 this season, including 4-14 in the Big 12 that tied for the bottom of the league. Mountaineers qualified for the NCAA tournament under Bob Huggins in 13 of the prior 18 seasons a tournament was held. They reached the Final Four way back in 2010 when they were a member of the Big East, but a damn good hire. Country roads indeed. And professional hockey puck. Steve likes it when I get the NHL in here. TJ Oshie returns to the Capitals lineup yesterday, getting back just in time for a ceremony honoring his milestone of playing in 1,000 NHL games. That'll make you feel old. And most importantly, at a critical juncture of the season with his team trying to desperately make the playoffs, Oshie had 2 assists in a 3-0 victory over the Winnipeg Jets organization that pushed Washington back into playoff position. Oshie was back against the Jets for game number 70 of 82 after missing the past 2 because of injury. Again, want to feel old? He's 37 now. He's been off and on in recent months dealing with nagging back problems that have threatened to derail his career. He reached his 1,000th regular season game March 16th at Vancouver. And finally in football, entering the 2024 season, a brand new quarterback room. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin said Russell Wilson will have the pole position, but that was a great video game, by the way. But 2021 first-round pick Justin Fields will have the opportunity to compete when the time is right. Nick's thankful that Justin Fields no longer with the Bears.
I'm not 100% thankful in that. I think I
Not
made
yet.
that very clear that I'm convinced that he will. Now, I know he's not in the pole position like Russell Wilson is with Pittsburgh, but that he will go somewhere. He'll get his opportunity and he'll probably dominate, and it'll make Chicago's decision look even worse. If they decided to roll with him and continue to support him on the offensive line and in the skill position, I was willing to let that go another year. But and we talked about this during the season, that thumb injury where he missed 6 games-ish, that hurt the evaluation as well. That really did sort of stunt the growth, I think, in what you truly wanted to see out of another full season of Justin Fields. So I think it's inconclusive of what he was in Chicago. But you can't let another opportunity pass you by where you have a chance to draft number 1 and get a quarterback. And when you do have a guy that from an absolute skill standpoint, people are going to debate back and forth of whether the mental part is there as well. But from a skill standpoint, a guy like Caleb Williams, that's hard to pass up, especially when you passed up on a CJ Stroud a year ago, given the kind of season that he had. So we shall see. This is the life of a Bears fan. I expect the worst.
Life of an NFL fan. I learned that this weekend. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed will always have a place with a couple of rings and the play on Flowers in the AFC Championship game. So the Chiefs made a trade. They get rid of one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and he's only 27. And Sneed, they trade him to Tennessee for a 3rd-round pick in 2025. The reality of the NFL, one, for Kansas City, is they've been good at developing defensive backs, especially at cornerback. Veach has had success there, and they have a big-time cornerback already on the roster, and they were never going to pay Sneed.
Yeah.
But it comes down to roster management. Is contracts are greater than the player. Like, you have to manage the contracts more than you manage the player and the emotional part of keeping somebody on your roster. I'd love to have Sneed. I love Sneed at 27, and who knows what's going to happen in Tennessee. He's got a little bit of a knee injury. Tennessee, I don't know, will be very good this upcoming year. But it's the harsh reality is contracts are greater than players, and you have to manage the contracts. And also in Kansas City's case, Kansas City's got some guys that are coming up after their rookie contract that are going to need to get paid. And so you have to look ahead, and they opened up $19 million in cap space. But, they've got 4 or 5 guys that are their rookie deals are about up, and they've got to redo them or move on from them. And they made this decision. But I don't think they were ever going to pay Sneed. I think that was pretty clear in what they got back is everybody in the league knew they were trying to move him, and they had to move him. And, the return is probably not the equivalent. But we'll see.
And this goes to the point of doing good business, though, in my opinion. And this is where I'm envious. And I'm still open and curious to see how Ryan Poles does with Chicago. But and coming from the Brett Veach tree, this is what I like. What you bring up a point about Sneed and what does the organization do pretty well, and that is be able to develop their secondary. So if you've got to make tough decisions with your current roster in some way, shape, or form, you are now doing so in an area that you feel confident between your scouting department and your coaching staff that you're able to get somebody else in, be able to develop them and have them play at a high level, as opposed to, starting to, I don't want to say maybe misprioritize, but get away from the plan of what you do very well when it does come to development. Because obviously on the surface, that was going to be a really tough decision. But then you trust what you do as an organization and you stick to it. You're consistent that way. And so, hey, look, Snead might just absolutely ball out in Tennessee, and maybe Kansas City has a bit of a drop off there. But the decision, I think you can totally understand it based on what Kansas City does well compared to maybe where they lack in certain areas when it comes to development. It makes sense to me. That's an example of an organization doing good business.
All right, back to Darren DeVries. So the personal part of it is I like D-Rock a lot. I mean, he's a good dude who, at the age of 48, has proven that as an assistant and a head coach, he's really, really good at what he does. Now, the personal part also is a bummer. Is a really good close personal friend of mine is his number one assistant who moved to Des Moines. Marty Richter is from he's from eastern Iowa, but he went to Simpson, which is in Indianola. And now they're probably going to move to Morgantown. Now it's a jump up, of course, from the Missouri Valley Conference to the Big 12. But this is what Darren DeVries has done to the Drake job. So he leaves. Probably not a surprise. Once Mac got extended here, that sped up D-Rock's looking to move up because he could sit in Des Moines, and when Mac moves on, it's really appealing. But now that Mac's going to be here, okay, where do I go to really put myself in a position if I ever get the opportunity to come back to Creighton? Well, West Virginia, which has had some basketball history, has got a rabid fan base. Not sure how well it fits with his personality, but we're about to find out. Is the sign that he is leaving Drake in so much better spot. You know, Nico Medved was there for a cup of coffee, and Drake is scrambling, and is D-Rock going to come up as the bridesmaid again? Well, they make the right hire. They get him, and look what they've done with Drake basketball. Is look at the names that are being mentioned for this job. I'd love to have Marty get the job. I don't think he will. But you've got Ben McCollum, who has had a great run at Northwest Missouri State in Division II, who at some point is probably going to take a Division I job. He flirts with a lot of them. He teases, and then he comes back to Northwest Missouri State. You've got Farouk Manesh, Ali. He's at Colorado State. He's been considered. His name was thrown around for the Omaha job a couple of years ago.
Assistant in Nebraska for a little bit, too.
Eric Henderson at South Dakota State would be a prime target as well. Matt Gatens, who was on the Drake staff, who was at Iowa, would be somebody that would be considered. But there are some really good mid-major coaches who are being mentioned for this job. That's another aspect that D-Rock has taken the Drake job to a really good spot, and it is a good job. You will not have Tucker DeVries there.
Right.
Now, bummer, one of the reasons why Tucker didn't play much at the end of the game the other night against Washington State is he banged up his shoulder. But he's going to follow Dad. So he's going to go and play in the Big 12, and that'll be great. But also, you know who might be the most disappointed people that D-Rock is leaving Drake outside of the Drake fan base? Iowa.
Yeah.
You guys know that Iowa men played the NIT last night against Utah?
Yeah, and lost. Yeah.
Did you catch that?
No, I didn't watch a lot of it, no.
But Iowa fans were convinced that Fran's going to leave and they could hire Darren DeVries.
Yep. So he will not be available, at least for the immediate future, Iowa fans. So sorry, Iowa JD, who I know would like to see Fran. It did sound like at one point that when all of a sudden his name surfaced from West Virginia, and remember, Darren DeVries, his name was being thrown out some other jobs too. I can't remember. Someone had tweeted it out that they were going to try to just hire Darren DeVries while Fran was still the head coach at Iowa, just to make sure they had their guy, and then they would have that awkward conversation with Fran after the game. It's not an enviable situation for Iowa fans because it's not just Iowa JD. I know two close personal friends that have been out on Fran for the last 2 years, and for the last month they said Darren DeVries needs to be our guy. So I know they're hurting about that. And also with what you get with the Dusty May too, the Louisville social media. Oh, that was on fire yesterday. Now they're ready to bring in Will Wade. Now they're ready to say, hey, you know what? Even though in most of the in the know guys don't have Will Wade on their top three, like even Shaheen Holloway could be a guy for Louisville. Now Louisville's like, you know what? Let's go all in on Will Wade.
You know how much of an impact the NCAA tournament has, especially coaches that are not well known
until they pull the upsets.
FAU
Go back to last year. FAU is a bad call away from being done. They benefited in the opening round last year of a bad call. If they lose in the opening round, do we even talk about Dusty May?
Probably not.
But Dusty May gets to the Final Four. This year they get in the tournament by reputation, get a good seed. And he gets a huge payday. Now, good move by Michigan. I mean, that's a good addition to the Big Ten. But look at how, Darren DeVries, back-to-back years, they've been in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, the Bulldogs have collapsed at the end in both years, but he has taken that program to the NCAA tournament. All of a sudden, he's on the radar.
Right.
Now, he probably would have eventually gotten a Power 6 job because he's good at what he does, but it speeds it up when you go to the NCAA tournament. And all I can think about looking at Dusty May's deal and reading through it is if they are one and done last year, is Dusty May still in Boca for the next couple of years?
Probably.
But he got to the Final Four. People are like, whoa, who is this guy? And
then you learn more about him, too.
The NCAA can write your ticket to a lot of different places.
Same thing with Shaheen Holloway.
Yeah.
I mean, you get that victory, and one of the more exciting things in watching what St. Pete did, and then the coach is talking a lot. And then all of a sudden you got all of these different backstories on the head coach, and that stock goes through the roof. And so he finds himself at Seton Hall, and now he's being talked about to help resurrect the Louisville job. And that's think about whoever Louisville hires next. If they have success, and there's a lot of things there for them to have success, you will be walking on water out there. And that could be potentially Shaheen Holloway. And that a lot of that stock came from that night against Kentucky and what they did as a 15 seed, and everybody was introduced to Shaheen Holloway.
Yep.
I mean, it's very, very true. You see that so many times mid-major coaches when they have those moments, those one shiny moments, that they're able to really kind of parlay that win, that success into popularity. And then it helps when an athletic director might have them, maybe already had those guys on the radar, but now the public knows about them. And then so now you got the popular public support behind it too. I know that doesn't drive decision-making, but it doesn't hurt when you're like, oh yeah, we know that guy. He was awesome. We saw what that team did. Man, he could do that over here with so many more resources. Hell yeah, let's bring him on.
Good addition to the Big Ten. Smart play and a good steal by Michigan. All right, 25 past the hour. We'll come back more on what happened with Creighton and also Nebraska and the tournament. And we'll talk a little bit of hockey because I think there's some things wrong with college hockey. It has nothing to do with Omaha. I think the sport in general, and it was exposed this weekend, especially last night. Holy cow. All right, 7:25. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, we're on to the next round. There's a lot of you that are going to Detroit. I just found out that kids don't have school here Thursday or Friday. So there's a lot of people that are now like, It's you got good flights that can go to Detroit that are nonstop. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch Creighton and Tennessee coming up on Friday night. And you know what? You're looking for tickets. The best place to go is ticketsforless.com. The NCAA tournament, the tickets can be found there. Upfront pricing, transparent, no per ticket fees when you get to checkout. Plus, use my promo code THEZONE. They're going to take care of you on your next order. Go to ticketsforless.com. Find the seats to the best events. And also, don't forget, we got opening day right down the road. The Royals and the Twins play at the K coming up on Thursday. So we are in full sports mode. But if you're looking to get seats to either the regional, the Sweet 16 in Detroit, or to go to maybe the Final Four, go to ticketsforless.com right now. Or stop by their office. It's located on 145th and West Center Road. It's ticketsforless.com. And don't forget to use my promo code, THEZONE, at checkout.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. You get a lot of junk in your inbox. This one, not junk. Not junk at all. 1620 The Email. Exclusive content, contests, other stuff probably. Subscribe today at 1620thezone.com. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Scattered showers and thunder showers possible Monday morning and again in the afternoon. Highs will top out near 60 early in the afternoon and then fall through the evening. Rain changes to snow overnight. Light snow possible into Tuesday morning with strong winds. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center, the roads are quiet in the Omaha Metro with no accidents or delays reported. The crash on the exit ramp from westbound I-80 to northbound I-680 is cleared. Everything else is pretty much smooth sailing from here on out. I'll keep you updated throughout the morning once traffic starts to pick up. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
The electrical market requires your company to adjust to an ever-changing field. IBEW Local 22 gives you flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, and proven training programs. Call Bob at IBEW Local 22 for details at 402-980-7596.
At Sid Dillon Chevrolet, we want you to have the best car buying experience possible. Shop Nebraska's #1 volume Chevy dealer group or at SidDillonChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
You are what drives us, Sid Dillon.
Get ready for warm weather driving and save with early spring tire deals at Jensen Tire and Auto. With 21 convenient locations throughout Omaha and in Lincoln, Fremont, and Council Bluffs, drive in today and save up to $200 when you buy a new set of 4 Goodyear tires with the Jensen Drive Out package using your Goodyear credit card. Save up to $100 on new Cooper tires and up to $70 on a new set of General tires. Click on JensenTireandAuto.com for details on Jensen's early spring tire deals. With 21 stores to serve you, your next new set of tires are close by. And so are the savings, including Jensen instant rebates on new sets of 4 select Continental, General, Maxxis, and Kelly tires. Check out all of Jensen's early spring tire deals at JensenTireandAuto.com and to request an appointment today. Jensen Tire and Auto, locally owned and family owned since 1973. Limited time offers. Visit a Jensen store near you or click on JensenTireandAuto.com for complete details.
O'Reilly.
Need a little help? O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Need advice? We've got advice. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Exceptional customer service. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha frequently conducts clinical trials for a broad range of investigational treatments. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, infectious diseases, acne, and others. Some current studies include low T, COPD, flu, pediatric, infant, and RSV. They also perform vaccine studies for people of all ages, conducting innovative research that has a positive impact online. See current trials at VelocityClinicalTrials.com. Compensation for study-related time and travel. Find out more at VelocityClinicalTrials.com.
The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Email me, Connor Happer, with the Connor Happer Show at Connor, CONNOR, at 1620thezone.com. Send me your love, your hate, and maybe a few hot takes. The Zone Inbox, presented by Equitable Bank.
Hi, this is Stacey McGilligan, Director of Sales for NRG Media Omaha. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished bilingual new business development salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to the next level. Is this you? Our multimedia account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you could sell. A sales career with NRG Media lets you make a real difference in our community. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Welcome to RV Ready. Looks like the open road is calling.
Call me Rhodey.
Okay, Rhodey, what's up?
Time's a-wasting, people. Mountains, lakes, rivers, campsites, all of it is waiting for you.
I'm hearing you.
Leach Camper Sales has the RV for you, and I am calling you out here.
Sounds like people should head to leachcamper.com and check out the inventory, or just stop by Leach Camper Sales in Council Bluffs.
And don't forget,
the coffee's always on.
Of course it is.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Now back up mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, 9:09. Coming up Friday night, another late night.
Go ahead and say it.
Nano. For Creighton and Tennessee in the Sweet 16 in Detroit. We cannot guarantee if the Screecher that was in the Grand Canyon student section will be at the game.
I feel like there are a number of those in different places.
But that one was, they put the mic right next to her.
Yeah.
They identified her. She was a student. But the screeching, I mean, first of all, that was probably that summed up that game. That game was crazy.
Yeah.
It was either, at one point, it was AAU basketball. It was the church league. It was the Y. It was, people fighting over a basketball when it was 6-on-6. It was just an insane game.
The church.
Oh, the game was going way too fast.
Yeah.
It was like, what am I watching here?
Yep.
But then I can't stop watching. It was bad basketball, but you're like, I can't turn this off.
Yeah.
I can't turn this off.
It was good, bad basketball, yes.
Sweet 16 is fantastic. All of the 1 and 2 seeds have made it. 10 of the top 12 seeds have made it. There's great storylines. There's great matchups. Going to be an unbelievable start on Thursday through the weekend to get to the Final Four coming up in Arizona. Last night, here in Omaha, the other team that got rewarded with an NCAA berth into the Sweet 16 was Omaha Hockey. So they're playing in Sioux Falls. Omaha is hosting up in Sioux Falls. They put in a bid before Augustana got Division I hockey, so that's why Omaha is hosting. And when you host, you get your team. And so Omaha gets in as a 3 seed after a good weekend in St. Paul. They beat North Dakota. When you say that, if you're using North Dakota in this league as a measuring stick, then you got to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Or do you use Denver as a measuring stick? Because they've been great against North Dakota. Won 4 of 5 this year.
Yep.
Denver, not so much.
Right. And yeah, so I think it's perception, to be honest with you, because who was still talked about more than anybody else out of the NCHC during last night's selection show? North Dakota, who was interviewed. It wasn't David Carl. It was Brad Berry. So I think the national perception they hold in such high regard, North Dakota, is always going to be that gold standard. And rightfully so this year. North Dakota last year, for the most part, they had a bit of an offseason. They came on late in the season. The year before, they kind of struggled a little bit. But more times than not, North Dakota is going to be either your regular season champ or they're going to be right up there. Denver, I think, has earned themselves what they have done as a program, especially in the last 5 years, that they're also maybe gold standard 1, gold standard B. I think this is the other thing about Denver when you watch those two teams is Denver on the attack scares me far more than North Dakota.
They suffocated Omaha in the second and third period.
So many little things that they
on
do
Saturday night.
that Omaha was able to expose for North Dakota where North Dakota's overall defensive weaknesses are, which there's not many because North Dakota's always known to have elite defensemen. But Omaha had been able to really this entire year expose a weakness defensively. The things that they were able to do, Denver completely eliminated those. And yet that game, and remember, it was that weekend in Omaha. We came on the air on Monday and we were highly critical of what we had saw.
Sometimes you got to get embarrassed to, turn things around. They have good leadership. They're a very well connected team. The boys in the room.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And
they put our pictures up in the locker room as motivation, and I'm all for it.
Hey, whatever works, whatever gets them to there. But if you watch that game on Saturday, and they're able to get a goal early. Then North Dakota. Denver. Even Denver's go ahead there at 2-1. I mean, that was just a hell of a shot by Webster. Omaha they defended well. They were in position, and from that point on, I mean, it came down to the last 5 minutes. So I think about that weekend. I was there front center. You were there for that too. When Omaha got embarrassed by Denver in those 2 nights. Even though if you look at a 4-1 score. You get the empty netter and you get kind of a garbage goal there towards the end. That was a tight one where Omaha's looking for the equalizer there with, almost 5 minutes to play in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I would not let that loss sort of derail everything that Omaha's done. Now, as every sport we talk about, whether it's basketball and in this case hockey, there are just matchups that don't favor you. Yeah. The Denver-Omaha matchup is a real tough one for Omaha.
So they get a matchup against Minnesota. Play 7:30 on Thursday night against the Golden Gophers, who have played well. I mean, this is a good 2-3 matchup. Omaha's a 3 seed. The winner gets Boston or RIT coming up on Saturday.
Last time they had RIT in the regional.
There's some things that I think college hockey does well compared to other sports, and there is no doubt that college hockey is a regional niche sport.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the caretakers want to make it more than that outside of where they hold the Frozen Four, where they'll go to Tampa or they've gone to California.
Yeah.
It's a niche sport. And I think the caretakers of the sport will never change. I think I want them to change. But they do one thing right, is when they seed their field compared to the other sports, it is totally a rating system.
Yep.
It is called pairwise.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew exactly where Omaha was going to be as a 3 seed.
And their likely opponent.
And in this case, you knew Sioux Falls because Omaha was hosting. But the college hockey season is way too long. It is way too long. They want to follow the NHL schedule. It's too long. The season started the beginning of October.
Mm-hmm.
The season will not end until
mid-April.
And so if you are a sport that's trying to grow, and they may not want to grow outside of the rabid fan bases, which includes Omaha, which Omaha saved this weekend at the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. Because if Omaha fans are not there, there's nobody there.
No.
Okay, and I'm glad that they're making the change after next year to go to the campuses. They need to better environments.
Yeah.
And a reward for teams that have a good season.
Absolutely.
But the college hockey season is way too long. Did many people outside of the diehard Omaha hockey fans pay attention this weekend? It was on CBS Sports Network, so you could get it for free. You didn't have to subscribe to NCHC TV.
Right.
You're going up against March Madness. Your first round of the NCAA tournament is going to go up against March Madness.
Yeah.
Now, the hockey fan don't care because they're going to watch no matter what. But are you trying to grow your sport?
Right.
And managing the calendar? But the season is way, way too long, in my opinion. And I'm not saying because of where we're at and how many more weeks we got to go, because I'd like to actually see him start
in December
or
November.
Or November.
Yeah.
And why not finish the end of April?
Yep. Because think about
where you've got more of a open window, not as much competition to get more attention. I don't know that the ardent hockey caretaker cares about that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you want to grow your sport, don't you?
Yeah. And to your point, think about what happened this weekend and what will happen next weekend. So this weekend, there were some amazing environments. I was watching highlights of the Michigan Big Ten final, and that was a campus site, banged out, looked like an unbelievable environment. And even for a casual sports fan to be able to maybe be passing through some channels and to see that on, you're probably going to stop and give that a look. RIT, same thing, had this huge fan support, just looked like a crazy environment. And even what Omaha was trying to accomplish over Denver, first of all, getting to the NCHC final, what was awesome. But it did. You had kind of it felt like, other than the Omaha fans, because Denver doesn't travel, that you had kind of a sleepier crowd outside of what Omaha brought. But you're going up. I mean, it makes sense, though. You're going up against the most popular college sporting event that we know for that 48-hour stretch. So your conference finals are taking place the first week of the NCAA tournament. And then so we ramp up. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's just bad timing. Maybe people don't care that much about conference tournaments as much. We're not worried about that. But when it comes to the NCAA tournament product, that's where we would like to have a bigger audience. Okay, when do you start? Sweet 16 games. You're starting on the day that college basketball resumes in Sweet 16 as well. So as Omaha gets ready to take on Minnesota Thursday night, everybody's going to be glued to basketball.
Yep.
I get that. Yep. And then Friday and then Saturday, everybody's going to be looking at the Elite Eight. You're telling me that you can't even move this back even 2 weeks to where they would have that stage either right before the Final Four. Hell, maybe you just say, we're going to open it up on the Thursday and Friday before the Final Four, because those games don't happen until Saturday. And this is the other weird thing. They play in their regional semifinal and finals this week. Then they don't play the Frozen Four for another 3 weeks. And so even if you got some momentum out of it, you lose that momentum, because then everyone's like, oh, did it already happen? It must have already happened, because nobody waits 3 or 2.5 weeks to crown a champion after they have established their Final Four.
The other thing that I think the sport needs to really look at, ESPN has done a great job of growing women's basketball. Now, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese have helped out a ton. But look at tonight on ESPN. They're going to feature Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, and Juju Watkins. So Connecticut, Iowa, USC are playing tonight. They have grown women's basketball, where, as I'm watching Audie Crooks play last night, I'm thinking, Women's basketball is in a good spot because they stick around a little bit longer and you can invest into the individual. And they sell the individual in women's basketball, but ESPN has elevated that sport. I know the coaches would like more, but ESPN's done a good job of elevating volleyball. They have done a fantastic job in elevating college baseball and college softball.
Mm-hmm.
They have tried with wrestling, where wrestling, at least the semifinals and finals now are on a good platform in the ESPN family. But wrestling, which had 93,000, I think it was 90, was it 93? It's 93 or 73,000. They had great crowds down in Kansas City this weekend. NCAA wrestling wrapped up this weekend. Then you get hockey. So while ESPN has elevated a couple of those sports, and remember, all the championships are under the umbrella of ESPN for years and years and years now. Boy, do they do a crappy job with hockey. That rollout last night of the field of 16 was abysmal, and that is an embarrassment to ESPN. That sport, which has so many passionate fan bases, and again, one of the more passionate fan bases is right here in this city. What they did to the sport last night, when they only paid attention is essentially to North Dakota, and if you were playing in Hockey East, and you're Omaha, and you know, hey, you're in the NCAA tournament for the 5th time in history. You're a 3 seed. You're excited, and they bungle one of the better goalkeepers in NCAA and his name
Simon Lachowski.
And they had no background.
No. They didn't even on Minnesota.
ESPN, if you're gonna carry the hockey championships, at least give it the respect it deserves. Because last night was an embarrassment. And who's speaking up in the hockey world to say, hey, what can we do with our media partner to make this better? One, I would say, can we get some games on one of the ESPN platforms during the regular season? Because they don't.
Nope.
It's just they come along in the NCAA, and all of a sudden they have all of the games.
They show up. They show up for the postseason.
What can we get some regular season games? Can we get any of that stuff? Can we find a spot here or there? But what ESPN did to their rollout show last night was an embarrassment.
Yeah, it was
to announce the field of 16.
They were guys that and John Buccigross, if there's one guy that probably knows the most about the 16 teams that were revealed, it's Bucci. But he's the facilitator of that show. He's the host of that show. So even as he was trying to lead the guys into conversations about other teams, you could tell that they were extremely well versed on the BCs and the Bostons, and even some of the North Dakota. Yeah, you're right. They knew about North Dakota, more of your household names. But I was even shocked when they started talking about Omaha and Minnesota a little bit, that for a team that was a national runner-up and a team that is a hockey brand in the Minnesota hockey program, that they talked very little specifically about them other than Justin Close, the goaltender who's been outstanding. Simon Lachowski, who we know and everybody in the NCHC knows very well. When you heard that, the Lachowski was almost kind of the fitting end to a conversation that was going to go absolutely nowhere when it came to teams like the way that they described Omaha. Basically, they described them as Western Michigan.
Which is not true.
No, it's
Omaha's got a shot to advance to the Frozen Four because of team defense and a great goalkeeper. Maybe learn that.
Yeah, as opposed to they're big. They're a lot like Western Michigan, kind of a big physical team versus skilled teams. Like, no,
not true.
No, it's not true. In fact, I would even question there are years that they've been bigger. This isn't even like their biggest team, too. So it was frustrating, and I get it because we know more about them. But my whole problem with the overall analysis of this, and we're going to talk to him on Thursday, is you have some very passionate people in the college hockey game. Dave Starman, I don't know if there's one that is more well-versed than Dave Starman, and I'm excited that we'll talk to him on Thursday about that. He's a guy that I guarantee you could have looked at all 16 of those teams, probably wouldn't even need more than 15 minutes of preparation, and could give you insight on their style of play, how they've looked throughout the season, because he is a college hockey sicko. I would at least think that in the one night that you're going to present the product that people are going to see with college hockey on ESPN, and it's only 16 teams, Gary. We're not talking about 64 or 68 teams. After a while, I get it, 64 teams, it's a lot where you might get a little bit more vague. But come on. And it's, again, not a lot of these teams. I mean, even Omaha has been in the NCAA tournament. They've been to a Frozen Four here in the last decade. That these aren't all of a sudden Johnny-come-lately programs, too, where it's not tough to learn about a lot of these. So It is. More than anything, it's just a bad look. And to your point about their capability, they being ESPN's capability of growing the product, they've got the resources and they can if they will. But you're right. This isn't necessarily a let's yell at ESPN, put pitchforks out there and say, you guys aren't doing this right. Somebody that oversees hockey, whether we're talking about anybody in the selection committee, some of your bigger names, your more well-known, higher-powered names in college hockey, you need to advocate for that as well.
You know, the one thing why volleyball has grown and still has room to grow is because coaches spoke up.
Exactly. 100%.
When hockey coaches don't really speak up.
Nope.
I think they're just not. They're good old boys club, and they kind of like how it goes.
That is
don't mess with our sport because we're a niche sport.
Right.
If they want it that way, that's fine. And I'll backtrack and I'll say, then ESPN is giving you exactly what you want. But
I know for the fan last night, that was embarrassing.
Baseball and softball, their coaches got involved and said, hey, we got this product and the ratings do well when we get to Omaha and Oklahoma City. What can we do? ESPN says, we can do this for you.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have a Caitlin Clark playing college hockey. Caitlin Clark on her own has grown women's basketball, and now you go, whoa, we got a future here.
Mm-hmm.
That was an embarrassment last night. But Omaha and Minnesota, 7:30 in Sioux Falls, and as Nick mentioned, Dave Starman, who was fantastic on CBS Sports Network covering college hockey, is going to join us later in the week. All right, Tim Kruger still to come. We got Jacob Bigelow, Amy Just, a tribute to what Saturday night meant in Pittsburgh, what that tribute was between Creighton and Oregon, and also what's next for Fred Hoiberg. Did he get a taste of it this year? And what does that do in the offseason, which will be pretty vital for the Nebraska basketball roster? We'll get into that as we roll till 10. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, your basketball team, your hockey team, whoever, maybe your fantasy baseball team, they have lived up to the billing this week. But maybe you have not when it comes being the best for your family, for yourself, for your team. You know that you could have more energy, a better attitude. And if you don't, you got to figure out why, because it's very important for you to be the best for your wife and kids. All right. It's March Madness, but you don't have to be mad. You don't have to be and there's no better safe and insured medical solution available, regardless of most medical conditions, than fighting low T. And that's where Mentality comes in. Go to their website, lowtusa.com. Their FDA-approved testosterone treatment with their board-certified physicians. They will help you diagnose and fix what you may have, like low libido. Let's say, as that game was going on Saturday night in Pittsburgh, you were like, la-di-da-di-da, this feels like a bye game, played at the CHI in November, when it actually wasn't. It was one of the most intense NCAA games we've ever encountered. And you were like, I'm not really interested in this game. You know what? So then you had a problem with the game. Your relationship took a fall. It's kind of like, when you're disinterested in your spouse or partner and you're like, what's the deal? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Less air in the ball. Do-do-do-do-do. I'm shooting up an air ball. Do-do-do-do-do. It's an over-the-back call. Do-do-do-do-do-do. All right. That shouldn't be happening. You should be irate. You should be like John Bishop. Whenever there is a bad call against Creighton, you know who does not have low T when it comes to being on the radio and rooting for Creighton is John Bishop. So here's what you need to do. You've heard me talk about all these symptoms. John Bishop isn't one of your symptoms. If he is, then you got to contact him directly, and I'll give you his cell phone if you text me. Mentality can take care of all these with low T. Their therapy will help you regain normal function and restore your ability to perform normal at all levels. Your team needs you. Your family needs you. I need you, and you need yourself. Go to the website, lowtusa.com, for more information and schedule an appointment where you'll get a physical, blood panel consultation and get on the right track with Mentality.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Now live on Twitch, YouTube, and 1620thezone.com.
It's Champions replacement window season, and we're celebrating with buy 2 windows, get 2 free. If your windows are drafty, difficult to operate, or costing you money on your energy bill, it's time to replace them. Champion Windows is here to help. Champion builds our own windows right here in the USA. We make the process easy. We help you choose the best design options for your home. We then build your project in our very own factory. Our install team manages your project every step of the way, and it's all backed by our lifetime guarantee. Turn your house into your dream home with more livable space in a new Champion sunroom, or enhance your curb appeal with new siding, now 30% off. Don't wait, this sale won't last long. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and 30% off sunrooms and siding. Call 877-GO-CHAMPION or visit championsavenow.com to schedule a free in-home estimate today. All discounts apply to our regular prices. Select styles apply. Minimum purchase required. Cannot be combined with other advertised offers. See store or website for details.
J-Tech Construction, the official exterior experts of the Huskers, offers exterior solutions that help you protect your number one investment. Whether it's roofing and siding or windows and doors, they're committed to excellence, quality, and outstanding customer service in every step of the process. When it's time to protect the exterior of your home, your choice is simple. Turn to who the Huskers turn to, J-Tech Construction. Check them out online and schedule a free estimate today. J-Tech Construction, the official exterior experts of the Huskers.
Trees, are they all the same? Not at Lanahaw. Grown from a quality seed source, handcrafted in our local farms for generations, and acclimated to our tough Midwestern climate, Lanahaw's trees are different. Simply put, they're better. Much like our trees, we take great pride in being homegrown. Visit our garden center to find your next tree today. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
College basketball's biggest tournament is coming, and it's time to start betting like a pro with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa. It's sports betting the way it should be. High betting limits, tight money line splits, exceptional customer service, and more. Fund and bet like a pro anywhere, anytime. It's never been easier. Download your new bookie before all of the March action at circasports.com. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, thumbs up, thumbs down. Good tournament, men's tournament so far, yay, nay. It's all chalk. 1s and 2s all made it. 10 of the top 12 seeds made it. Good tournament. First 4 days, yay or nay?
If I can do this, okay, then up. Then I'll go thumbs up.
Okay. And I think we're going to have a really good second weekend.
And you know, that's probably why I give it a thumbs up as well, is because everything that I want to see in the NCAA tournament is chaos on Thursday and Friday, but then give me the brands Sweet 16 and beyond. Give me the best of the best.
Give me the best
Sweet 16. And you know what? We got that. So we had a couple of good upsets, a couple of good stories. Oakland was a great story, but now we've got the cream, and I'm good with that.
So,
but not cream.
I'm gonna say it hasn't been a great tournament so far. It took 35 games to get to a buzzer beater. Everything was chalk. 15-1 in the round of 32 on the money line. The only one that didn't go your way was Baylor. But Sweet 16 is set up perfectly. And I'm a harsh judge on my tournament. You know, I created this thing.
But thank you for doing that, by the way.
The biggest thing that needs to be figured out is the time slots and how they decide what goes where, because
why are we playing Sunday night games at 9?
Yeah, there are some questionable moves on who gets what slot. I mean, I know there's probably a rhyme or reason, but that probably should come out, because that's been a storyline through the first 4 days of why is such and such playing at this time. And why on the East Coast do we have the late game? And why in the Mountain Time Zone in Salt Lake City are they playing essentially in the morning?
Yeah, that made no sense.
And I know they don't drink there, but still.
Arizona and Dayton were playing in the
10:45 in Salt Lake.
Yeah, they were playing in the morning.
Yeah. And then Kansas Gonzaga was
Nightcap.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
There is a lot of NBA influence in the college game, but there is one that ticked me off. I mean, I'm already triggered by I see too much of the Chet and Shea commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
what a
I
pro
also
wants,
wonder how many people
what a pro
realize
wants.
that's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who
Yeah.
maybe he was in the running for the MVP in the NBA this year. They recognize Chet,
Yeah.
but do they recognize Shea?
SJ? Sure.
But that's a bad commercial.
It really is.
And it airs way too much.
It does. As do many of those
But
commercials.
the one thing about the NBA influence in college, oh my gosh.
Flopping?
Well, no, it's along that. Why, after every questionable call,
we throw a tantrum?
A little bit, but then we put our finger in the air and we twirl it around like it's time for a review.
Oh, God.
In the NBA,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
happening a lot.
Yep.
And that's what I saw
True.
this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of time solving the world's problems at a scores table in a college
And a
basketball
monitor.
arena.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But you see almost every time now there is something and it's a questionable. They'll look to the bench and they'll be like, they'll twirl their finger in the air asking for a review.
And you get 2.5 hour games as a result.
Thank you, NBA.
Yeah. And yeah, because I think the players even at times don't. I think they feel that there's 40 minutes of everything can be reviewed at travel. Maybe whether I got all ball or not, and so I can review it because you'll see people on the bench too doing the same thing.
The score is 6-2. Put
Like
your
yeah,
fingers down.
exactly. Like 2 minutes into the game and on maybe a 50-50 ball that just went out of bounds. Oh no, we touch it.
Well,
Raptor, he just said man to man
before the Creighton Oregon game. You had the lengthy, like
oh god,
breakdown of the Zapruder film of North Carolina State Oakland, who the ball went off of.
Yes.
So many F words.
So that was a thing that really got under my skin this weekend. What did not get under my skin, and as I watched Creighton Oregon play, and one of the more intense basketball games that was not aesthetically pleasing.
No.
But it was like, oh my gosh, it was a reminder on Saturday with Greg McDermott coaching against Dana Altman. Bruce Rasmussen was really, really good at his job.
Yes.
Like exceptionally good, because one bad hire in your major sport can set you back. And the luxury of having two coaches in the span of 30 years that you hit on both, that is such a tribute to Ras as his ability to make good hires, retain good people, move a program forward. And then you look at that game and you think about where Creighton basketball is. Playing in the Missouri Valley Conference, which can be a 1-bid or maybe a 2-bid league, and then you cross your fingers that you get a non-12 seed and that maybe you can do something, and maybe just so you get a unit for the conference and some more money, you make it to the next round. But it's not easy being in the Missouri Valley Conference to never take for granted Creighton's jump to the Big East, where you don't have to worry about that. If you're good in the Big East, you're going to get rewarded. You're either going to be a UConn 1, Marquette 2, a Creighton 3. Those two things, that's what I was thinking about when they showed Ras in the stands. I'm like, man, that's a tribute to him that those two coaches have their two teams on the floor, and where Creighton went from the Missouri Valley Conference to the Big East when it comes to basketball to position themselves for the future. And you don't ever have to worry about, are we going to make it? What happens if we lose in St. Louis? Because living that lifestyle, trust me, that's not easy.
Right.
Living the lifestyle now as one of the better programs in the Big East, that can be an easy lifestyle.
And I always wondered this when it comes to Bruce Rasmussen and making those decisions. How much of Bruce Rasmussen, the administrator, as opposed to Bruce Rasmussen, the coach, when it comes to those instincts, when it comes to identifying those types of leaders? Because you're right, that transition from Mo Valley to Big East, if you don't have the right guy, I think about what has happened to Nebraska football. It's not just, well, we'll admit when we're wrong, we'll make the change, and then we'll find the next guy. You get into that cycle, and there is no assurance that you're getting out of that cycle. Yeah. And that, when you
one
are
bad hire could lead to another.
Absolutely. And when you are a declared basketball school and that's your brand, and you cannot get out of the avalanche, especially with what the Big East could put you in under if you don't have the right guy, I don't know if people appreciate Bruce Rasmussen enough for having that ability to find not one, but two guys that stood the test of time when it came to that level of coaching.
I mean, this is also this time of the year, not only some of the mid-major coaches that get it, they get to show up on a big stage and people go, man, that guy's really, really good. Yeah. Let's get him to the bigger stage. This also shows you good athletic directors. March Madness really illuminates good athletic directors. And there's no doubt that Creighton had one of the best. And I look at like Jamie Pollard at Iowa State. They have found the formula with TJ.
Yep.
He's got the recipe, but they have found a great fit for Iowa State. And TJ is not interested in going anywhere.
And they survived.
He tried that. He went to UNLV from Brookings.
Yep.
And now he's there. And it's 2 Sweet 16s in the last 3 years for a program that went twice between 01 and 15.
And that's the other part about to Jamie Pollard and what I just said. If you can find yourself into that cycle, there's no assurance that you're going to get out of it. Good on Jamie Pollard, because the Steve Prohm thing was interesting. And I think there was a lot of people going to bat for him when he came from Murray State and thinking, okay, Fred is, abruptly left. We need to find kind of the next solid mid-major guy. Let's go with Prohm. I know so many people that were excited and thought that would be a seamless transition. And at least for the first year, because you still had a lot of Fred's guys, it worked. But boy, did you see that was not going to work pretty quickly. But they were able to pivot. They were able to identify they had a guy, and they were able to get him away from UNLV. And now they haven't looked back. And I'm with you. I think TJ Otzelberger is going to be there as long as he wants to be.
All right, 2 more hours to go. When we come back, what's Fred going to do? Fred Hoiberg, that is, after this season. That was a really good season for Nebraska basketball. It has to be a really good season for Nebraska basketball next year. But what has it done to Fred in terms of how he approaches it? We'll get into that coming up in the next hour of Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. I saw a lot of you downtown, and a lot of you were Natalie addressed, including somebody that stopped me and said, you know what, look at this polo. Now, you didn't have the Jim Nance, polo and the hoodie combo, but you had good-looking polo. I said to this guy, and he said, you know where I got it? And I said, where? And he goes, I went to your friends over at Lindley Clothing. I said, really? Did you say hello to John, Marlene, and the entire staff? He said, yes, I did. You know what? Lindley Clothing has been a staple in Omaha. They are a staple in your wardrobe. Sportswear to tailored clothing. I know you're going to start to get out on the golf course. They got some great-looking sportswear right now. Or you're going to be walking somebody down the aisle, or you're going to be going to a graduation, or you've got a son that's headed to a prom. Lindley Clothing can take care of you. And now they're taking care of you at a whole nother level with well-suited. So when you go into Lindley Clothing, they're at 132nd and West Dodge in the Linden Market. You walk right in. If you take a left, you're going to go right into well-suited. And you'll see for yourself how easy to shop for you or someone in your life. All of those things are coming up. And now the well-suited top-notch staff, they'll help find you exactly what you need for prom or any special event. And get this, right now, they've got a spring sale coming up starting April 4th through the 14th. 15% off all new spring sportswear. And buy one, get one for half off. You can't beat it. The place to go, they've been dressing men for 88 years, is Lindley Clothing in the Linden Market, 132nd and West Dodge.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time Saving Traffic Center, we still got an injury crash on westbound 96 in Nell. There's also an injury crash on 156 in Pepperwood Drive. Also, road construction's causing major slow traffic on Leavenworth and Saddle Creek. Out in West Omaha, there is slow goings on eastbound Dodge from 168 to 156, and major slow goings on northbound JFK from L to the I-80, I-480 interchange. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Spring, it's the reward for surviving another winter. Fernando's, it's the reward for any day that ends in Y. Great Mexican food, awesome margaritas, and a wonderful family atmosphere. Fernando's, Omaha's favorite Mexican for more than 30 years.
What goes perfect with the madness of March? The convenience of Cubby's downtown in the Old Market, 13th and Jackson. And if you're gearing up to watch the game, Cubby's has what you need. You'll find a full meat counter with steaks, burgers, chicken, and homemade brats. Hot and fresh deli food, including Chester's Chicken and Godfather's Pizza Express. Pop, water, beer, and a full liquor department. See you at Cubby's Old Market, the very best in convenience. Open 24 hours at 13th and Jackson.
Riding season is here, and it's time to trade in and trade up. Or, if you ain't riding it, Luss Hills Harley-Davidson is buying it. Sell your Harley-Davidson today. Luss Hills Harley-Davidson. Rise up and ride on.
Hear that? The sound of your antique fountain pen gliding across linen paper as you journal in the park. And if you were here, you'd be inspired by the warm breeze. But you're not here. So if you ride, get a quote and see if you could save with Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Now that's inspiring. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Get the one and done you want for your dog's monthly protection. NexGard Plus, Afoxolon or Moxidectin and Pyrantel chewable tablets. Protects against fleas, ticks, heartworm disease, roundworms, and hookworms. All in one delicious, beef-flavored soft chew. Used with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Dogs should be tested for existing heartworm infection prior to starting a preventive. Ask your vet about NexGard Plus chews.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
So after watching 4 days of basketball, the NCAA tournament, men's and women's, hopefully you got a chance
to watch the Iowa State-Stanford game last night. That was a crazy game, especially the fourth quarter and the overtime that Stanford eventually ended up winning. But you see a lot of the same commercials. So the What a Pro Wants, the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren commercial that airs like every fourth commercial.
Who that is. Okay.
I was through
Yes,
that. I was over that like midday on Thursday.
But then you have the Mellow commercial that has TJ Ford in it.
Yeah. How many people knew that was TJ Ford, by the way?
I was trying to figure it out without cheating. He wasn't wearing his Texas jersey.
But the two that I'm over, that I'm done for the week now, is the Wendy's commercial and the Buffalo Wild Wings
box out. Oh,
you guys are out on Sandstorm and Big Buffalo ass.
I like box out. I still like box out. It's kind of funny. Maybe it's because of his voice. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
He's got good form too. You're not getting a rebound.
Box out. What's wrong? I just love what's wrong with your faces. I don't know. I think that one's funny. But yes, the Wendy's one. Those things have annoyed me for like the last 3 years, and now that they're going into Sandstorm, that's
two great things.
Even worse.
Teaming up.
Even worse. But I'm with you on Sandstorm. I can handle the box out one. It's pretty good.
Now, how many people called their local CBS affiliate on Friday?
About the Kate Middleton?
Yeah, so we had a dramatic moment.
We did. I got nervous.
Kate Middleton, who there have been conspiracy theories all over the place because of her absence. She, I mean, good on her. She released a statement, a broadcast statement, revealing that she has cancer, and she was giving an update, finally to squelch all of the rumors that are going on about the princess.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound harsh because cancer sucks, and did you need a Kate Middleton breaking news? Because if you were watching CBS when they cut in, it was like a dramatic thing.
Yeah.
When it first popped up, I thought, uh-oh. So I went to Twitter and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's when I saw that Kate Middleton had released this update, a video, and CBS was like, they played into it. I'm thinking, okay, there's this weird fascination in this country. I get it over there. In this country with the Royals, and not Kansas City or Bobby Witt Jr. or Salvi Perez being 33 and what he might do this year,
Which I would have been all for.
Or how the vote will be next week on the new possible stadium.
Yeah,
but did enough fans get enraged that they called the CBS affiliate to complain?
Where's my boo-boo?
Did Channel 3 here in town or 1011 get calls?
I bet they did.
Get this off my screen.
Yeah.
Probably.
I bet they did.
I want more Danning Manning. Which was a graphic mistake when they showed the KU legend in the stands during the KU game the other day.
Not much went well for
But it
them,
was just
though.
Gary, you had elite guards going head to head, and they decided to break into for that.
I mean, it was just an abrupt, dramatic. Oh my gosh! I really thought something was going on.
I did too. I really did too. I mean, come on, it's an election year. You never know what's going on. So anytime
it's a year, you never know what's going on.
My mind is trained to anytime there is breaking news or developing news and they interrupt something like that, especially when they interrupt the tournament, because it's big business. This is a major thing.
FAU and Northwestern were tied.
Yes, they
It
were.
was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good. The game ended up in overtime, but yeah. So you go to the small screen of what's going on in the NCAA tournament game. I'm with you. I felt awful because I immediately said, "Oh, that's what this is."
I thought you were going to say she's doing Wendy's
felt
commercials.
Bad because it's awful. I'm with you, Gary. I mean, anybody who gets diagnosed with that, especially when someone is in a prominent role like that, I understand that it is news. I understand that people, especially with all the rumors that were going around, it was obviously very newsworthy. To me personally, I thought that would be a breaking news little scroll bottom graphic that would be going at the bottom of the screen.
I guess
in all red.
I guess the other major networks did not do it. Now, CBS played it where they hit it during a commercial, but it seemed like they lingered for a while.
It did linger. It did linger.
It's a longer media timeout.
I just, again, it was newsworthy. I didn't think it was interrupt play to play the video. I think that information, what was going on, the breaking story could have been on the bottom little scroll graphic or create a bottom scroll graphic, like when there's severe weather. And then you could say to see the full video, go to cbs.com.
Can you imagine if they would have missed like a buzzer beater?
Right. Oh, then you would have had. I guarantee you there were people who called because that just happens.
I have money on this game.
Oh, if that happened? Oh. Ooh.
I'm worried Dusty May's leaving.
Iowa JD says, didn't we fight 2 wars not to care about the Royals? I think it was just a loss in the World Series to the Giants in 14, and then the Phillies in 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Don Denkinger, rest in peace.
It's an interesting culture. I had an uncle who married a Brit, and they, she moved over to the U.S. and she would try to explain it.
Yeah.
At the height of like Princess Di.
Yeah.
I could never get it.
But
the fascination with the Royals.
Yeah.
But there is that culture in this country that anything dealing with the Royals. I mean, look at Harry.
Yeah.
Harry and Meghan.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the news every single day.
Yeah.
Look at that first
Wasn't
wedding
that
and how everyone went
the
nuts.
interview with them and Oprah?
Oh, yeah.
Was one of the most highly viewed interviews ever to exist in ever.
Seems like everybody watched it, but me.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like the highest rated interview ever, and like the numbers that it did next to some sporting events too was they like trounced them. So people care.
All right, so the Nebraska basketball season is over, and now a really interesting offseason begins. And I think you will get a sense of Fred Hoiberg in the way that he acts here in the next month and a half. Because what did he learn from this year? There were some things that happened on Friday that you knew were downfalls in Nebraska all season long. If you hit shots and you play hard and you win a lot of 50-50 balls, you can overcome some of those things. And you can upset teams like Purdue and Wisconsin. But in terms of when you're not built with the mentality that Texas A&M has, where we're just physical, okay? We have that mindset. This is how we're built. This is how we're going to play. We might not be the prettiest team. We may miss a lot of shots, but boy, we're going to make sure we go and get those missed shots. So that's a mentality that Buzz Williams has built with his team, and he's recruited to that. So if you were at the game and you watched both teams warm up, there was a difference in how players looked.
Yeah.
Like just different. But stuff that happened on Friday was not new to what has ailed Nebraska this year. It just got exposed. Again, they played 3 straight halves against Illinois. They played in Minneapolis, then they went to Memphis and played Illinois in the first and second half. And you know how Illinois is built. They're going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So this year, which was a good year, kind of a breakthrough for Fred Hoiberg, I think you will figure out what Hoiberg has learned from this year in his actions. Because I also think he's got a taste of what this is like. I mean, how can you not, if you would have been around the fans that were in Memphis? They so desperately wanted for Nebraska to win that basketball game. Remember, on Friday, I didn't like it. I said, my gut says, this isn't good because I took the emotion out of it. But the fans are there and they're ready to pop.
Yep.
They're ready to pop. So you got a taste of what this can be. You have pretty much let it be known that you kind of have undertaken an obligation to the fans. They've invested in Nebraska basketball. You think you found the formula to be successful, but what do you do next? And it wasn't just, that's what I got on Mike about earlier. I said, it wasn't just one game. Right. If you're basing your season off one game, then you're not very good at your job. Okay, you got to look at the whole picture. They already know that they need to be better at the point guard spot. They also know that they've got to find a true 5. You can't have Rink Mast, who is a 4, play a 5. That's not fair to him. He's not built to do that. At times he can be successful, but most of the times he is not. So you have to find somebody else to do that, but also knowing you haven't really had success recruiting a 5. Nebraska basketball are we going back to March to find the last time Nebraska basketball recruited and developed a good post player?
What about Jordy Chimanga? Yeah, you're right.
And that's a ways ago. Yeah. So this is kind of embedded in the program, and really in Hoiberg's 5 years, they have not been able to recruit, develop a true 5 that can be a hanger and a banger during the course of a Big Ten season and then benefit you if you need that type when you get to a one-and-done scenario. So as they look, I know Terrace Reed, who's 6'10" from Michigan. He's been contacted by Nebraska. You know about Frankie Fiddler's been contacted by Nebraska. There are 2 key things here in terms of the portal world. It starts with Chucky Hepburn.
Yep.
Whatever Chucky is going to do at Wisconsin, once that's decided, then you go from there. Is he going to stay at Wisconsin? Is he recruiting Frankie Fiddler and William Kyle III to come to Madison? Is he looking to get out? Whatever happens there, that starts the domino. Nebraska's flirted with him before. Will they flirt again? And this time, will it be more than flirting? Will they have a season-long stand? Then, on your current roster, because once the Chucky decision is made, other things start to make sense. On your current roster, I don't know about C.J. Wilcher. C.J. Wilcher has been at Nebraska for a while. He's now graduated.
Like 8 years.
Does he want one more year somewhere else? I also think Rink Mast will be popular back home with pro offers. Would there be something there that would entice him? And then, because we've danced around this for 2 years, Blaise Keita.
Yeah.
Is Blaise Keita a true option to play for you? Or is he a guy that is a big man with bad feet and you can't trust him, and so we're just going to move on? Sorry. I mean, there would be your 5, but I mean, I need if I'm going to invest in a 5 on my current roster or somewhere else, I'm going to need him to play nearly every single night. So there's a couple of key decisions that I think, Fred's going to have. But I believe it starts with Chucky Hepburn. Whatever decision he makes, then it falls in line with what you do with the rest of your roster. If you get a guy like that says, I'm leaving and I'm coming home and I'm going to continue to wear red. But regardless, they need a point guard, they need a 5, and then they need an athletic wing. Doesn't need to be long because Texas A&M had average length.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't like this team that had this incredible length that they were just a pain in the butt.
Slashers.
Yeah.
And so I think of 2 guys from the state of Nebraska, 2 guys from the Omaha Metro, that there's the what could have been, but also the we'll wait and see when it comes to Chucky. But watching that game, how much, because this crossed my mind after the game, but how much of a difference would Hunter Salas have made for that Nebraska team in that particular matchup too? When you look at, you're talking about a lengthy wing, a guy that creates shots, a guy that can hit you long range, but a guy can also finish at the rim. Like his athleticism, that to me is the one thing, the Hunter Salas type of player. That's the one thing that you've seen Nebraska lacking a little bit. I thought maybe we'd get a little bit more of that from Bryce Williams. Bryce Williams is a nice player. Don't get me wrong. He had a decent game.
He's their MVP.
He is. And the way that he finished too. When you look at the way that Nebraska finished the regular season into the tournament, into the postseason, look at Bryce Williams' numbers for the most part were right there, either at the top or near the top when it came to a lot of different categories besides just scoring. But the one area that we've talked about plaguing this team, well, 2, you mentioned with the post player, but also having that true point guard and thinking about what Chucky Hepburn could represent for Nebraska in solidifying that spot and what that does around this roster, to me is huge. Now, the Blaze Cada part of it, there's another thing that if we're told, Blaze was dealing with that ankle, the feet, but more than anything, the ankle issue throughout the season. To me, that's a major problem of just the lack of reps that he had for a year. Knowing how important that big man presence, whether Rink Mass is here or not next year, having that big man, that true 5 presence is going to be. Are you going to trust a guy who's been off for an entire year? Think about this. He's been good in the postseason too. Think about Illinois and Dane Danger. He's not their lead guy, but that's a guy. It's 6'9", which isn't a tower. But the way that he plays, I think of those types of post players where Nebraska doesn't necessarily even need the 6'11" guy. You just need to do that plays that role, can give you some offense, but more than anything is an absolute SOB in the paint. That go ahead, try to finish at the rack. Good luck to you. You're going to get hit. That ball's going to get sent away a few times. It's not going to be easy. So I feel like, because I've been told a lot when we've talked about post play, that not as many skilled post players exist. It's not that easy, and that's Nebraska doesn't need a Zach Edey. Nebraska doesn't need a Ryan Kalkbrenner. Sure, you'd love to have them. Those are guys that don't just fall out of nowhere. But to be able to find the one that first and foremost gives you the defensive presence, whether he's 6'9", 6'10", whatever, but plays at the rim, is going to be that presence. I'm watching that game on Friday night thinking more than anything, more than lack of point guard play or any type of solidifying the guard play. It's that presence to me that probably stood out the most. The lack of that presence that stood out the most, especially against a team like Texas A&M. But then when I think of the athleticism, I immediately went to thinking of a guy like Hunter Salas of what he could have done for that team and what that would have looked like, having a guy that just creates. So when shots aren't falling all over the place, you have a guy that is finishing at the rim when need be. He's generating the offense. And so you're not only getting the same type of, the electricity and everything with the fans is great, but you have a guy that's generating that home and on the road with his play. Because can we say that about anybody on Nebraska's team right now? Do you have an offensive player that generates that type of overall buzz on the floor because of what he can do both at the rim and beyond the arc? I don't see that.
Their biggest thing they have to do in the offseason as well is they got to get faster.
Yes.
Their foot speed. There's going to be a long debate about athleticism and physicality. Some of that is a mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of athleticism wasn't new to Nebraska. they got exposed in certain places against the Rutgers and the Illinois of the world, especially when they went on the road, which sometimes when you go on the road, the lack of athleticism gets exposed even more. But the foot speed, that's where Nebraska's got to get better in the offseason. Tominaga was not fast afoot. Josiah wasn't as either. But as a roster, they have to get better because they got into a situation Friday where Texas A&M was hitting shots. And so they were not getting there on the catch. So Texas A&M got a lot of catch and shoot opportunities where they got great looks at the rim because a lot of Nebraska's defenders were so worried that they would get beat off the dribble when they would go to try and close out, that they would get beat, that they gave them a lot of space. And they're going to have to fix that in the offseason. But they've got a good starting point. That's absolutely, you don't have to tear it down. You compared to Nebraska basketball standards of late, you're ahead of the game. It's just, what do you tweak? And you can't let, what Texas A&M did, we've got to change our philosophy, and this is what we're going to do. No, you found the formula. You just need some things that you knew that were going to be lacking going into the season, and Illinois and Texas A&M further expose those. And in a make-or-miss sport, Texas A&M made a lot of shots. Man, they made a lot of shots. And when that happens, you know what? Sometimes you tip your cap and go, good on you.
Yeah.
But the foot speed has to be a focus in the offseason.
I think that's a great call because, again, to me, it goes back to finding that player, whether that's that wing player. Sure, you don't mind having it out of the point guard position if you can find that, but just having that wing player, I best characterize as an eliminator. That when you do have a team that is maybe exposed in certain areas, that eliminator, that player is able to, again, he's going to create. And so he's going to be able to thwart those runs. You're not going to have those droughts because you have a guy that just has a knack for getting the ball in the hoop, a guy that can, again, get all over the place, creating shots, finishing mid-range, long range, at the rack. That's where I think of that wing player, but it comes down to the foot speed too. I mean, what makes some of those players so special, those slashers, because they're explosive. If you can and that's the beauty about this whole conversation is you find one of those guys, how that changes the dynamic of what you do offensively too, because they already got a good system in place when it comes to finding good looks, being able to knock down threes. This was a successful year in what Nebraska could generate offensively with the three ball. And that's what I'm kind of used to seeing with Fred Hoiberg teams. So you got a lot of that in place. I think that overall athleticism, I like what you said about the foot speed there too, and just finding that elite score, that eliminator, if you will, not even elite score that's going to give you take bad shots.
I think your formula was this year. I don't think you need an elite score. They had a host of scores.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. It's just maybe it's just that guy.
You also have to be comfortable as a coach of how you're constructing your roster.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because now I think back to a couple of years ago. Because you also have
to be able to go get that guy.
Yep.
If you're not able to get that guy, what's your plan B? All right, let's have 3 or 4 guys double-figure guys that can get us a bucket. Like the beginning of the year, Rink Mast is our leading scorer. Then all of a sudden it's Tominaga. And then the finish of the year, it's Bryce Williams.
Which being able to do that in multiple bodies is not a bad thing. But again, I think when you talk about the overall athletic profile of certain players in certain positions, okay, that's probably where I'd want to see it elevated.
The one thing that happened on Friday night, Texas A&M's run, Nebraska went into a scoring drought. And then when A&M would go into a scoring drought, Nebraska was still in a scoring drought. But the run by Texas A&M just sucked the life out of that building. That building was popping at the beginning of the game, and then once Texas A&M started to hit shot after shot after shot, and there was no contention of buckets at the rim, man, that crowd went to – it just was like painful. It was just a smattering of a section of A&M fans cheering.
Yeah. And that was what was so disappointing about the starting of the second half too, because I think there were probably people in that building – there was probably a lot of people in that building and people watching that remember – Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Lincoln thinking, all right, these next 5 minutes, if this is going to be a game, is going to tell you everything you need to know. And it was just more of the same, the way that they ended. And at that point, I think the last 15 minutes was kind of a blur. You already knew what was going on, and you're just kind of delaying the inevitable from that point. It was a rough watch in the final 15, especially because there was nothing that.
All right, Terry writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, I worry for Buzz. He was out of breath at the first time out and seemed to be sweating a bit during the game. As a survivor, he looks to me like a heart attack in the making. Now, he's always had a sweating issue.
Yeah.
He's been
Some
a big
people just have that.
sweater. There's famous photos of him at Virginia Tech where he was drenched. When he used to wear suits, he would take off the sport coat. He'd be drenched in College Station.
That's why the 3/4 zip works well.
Well,
It breathes a little bit.
He's a guy that works as hard as his players do during the game. He is all over the place.
I think of his that team and him. Yeah, that's kind of a good description of what that team maybe lacked offensively. They're still going to force it out of you because of the energy level that they play with. That is a reflection. I think that's a good call there. I think that's a reflection there.
Well, every coach,
of what their
look
coach
at
is.
the teams in March. Okay, I'll use Creighton as an example. Mac is not like a roller coaster guy. He's pretty steady. It would have been pretty easy on Saturday night not to be steady. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. We can't hit a shot. We can't stop anybody. And we're getting beat by 2 guys. Okay. We're getting beat by 2 guys. The other 3 guys purchased a ticket off of ticketsforless.com. They're watching the game. It's 2-on-5 and they're beating us, but very, very steady. Probably inside was not, but outside.
Yeah.
You look at like TJ Otzelberger is intense. What is his team?
Yeah.
They guard you. I mean, they start following you when you get off the bus. Buzz Williams is an intense guy.
Yep.
And what is his team? They are 40 minutes of intensity. Now they're helter-skelter. And, if you look at what they did against Houston, they can sometimes be all over the map and it makes sense with their season that was a roller coaster.
Right.
But a lot of the teams that are, in this tournament that are still playing, they are a direct reflection of their coach. Look at Mark Few. Mark Few is 9 straight Sweet 16s. He beat both of the teams to begin the tournament by 20 or more. That team also could be up and down. They are about as steady as can imagine.
Yep.
I mean, he's a guy that sometimes he sits during games.
Yeah. And when you have,
I mean, if you can, and that's the thing about Nebraska where I think they made a step this year is Fred's personality. His team finally matched his personality because his personality was not to have a collection of knuckleheads and bad basketball IQ. He finally got to that point in the last 2 years of what he wants matches who he is.
Yeah.
And I think when you can do that, cook him with some peanut oil as a coach, and then you decide, okay, how can we go from there? That's why I know there's a lot of people that have chimed in already about drastic changes, and this is what I would add. As a coach, you have to be comfortable with the style and not deviate. Like if you're, Sean said, get an MFer. Yeah, I would like a guy that, when the Texas A&M guy is having a free lane to the rim, like he's Sir Parker, that you put him on his derriere. I don't really have that guy.
No.
But you have to, and if you're not into that guy, it's tough to go all of a sudden go, okay, let's go. Hey, Nate Lesnar, go find me an MFer. So additions to the roster, you have to be comfortable in that style and not just completely change everything you're doing.
Right, because you can't deviate from the overall character of the team, the personality of the team.
That's why you don't worry about one game.
Yeah, 100%.
Course of a whole season. All right, we got to take a quick break. 35 past the hour. Jacob Bigelow, Amy Justel have some thoughts. Spring football is going on in Lincoln. If you were wondering about one of those things, Troy Dannon will be officially announced tomorrow. I feel like we already know him. He went to Memphis.
You're in Memphis, yeah.
But he'll get the official announcement tomorrow at 2:00. Is that right?
Yep.
Also, there will be media availability coming up on Thursday for spring football.
They practiced yesterday. No, was it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday?
We'll get to see Pat Mahomes Jr. in person coming up on Thursday. It's mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament, whether you're betting on a big upset or on a 1-seed. If you were betting on 1-seeds, you'll love it. 15-1 were the moneyline favorites on FanDuel this weekend in the round of 32. It's time to go dancing with America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins.
Yeah, and hopefully you listened to my advice in the Yale game, giving you Yale getting the points. But as we look at Friday's Sweet 16 games, love Marquette laying the 6.5 against NC State. And there are other ones you can take a look at as we get started on Thursday with the Sweet 16. That one stands out to me. And don't forget, $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/zone and bet on college hoops. That's FanDuel.com/zone. Bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. 21 plus and present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. It expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Scattered showers and thunder showers possible Monday morning and again in the afternoon. Highs will top out near 60 early in the afternoon and then fall through the evening. Rain changes to snow overnight. Light snow possible into Tuesday morning with strong winds. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees. The Source. By your mom's house.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center, there's a crash block in the left shoulder of eastbound Dodge from 168 to 156. You can expect stop-and-go traffic from 180th. There's also an injury crash on 156 in Pepperwood Drive. There might be slow traffic in the area as well. Everything else seemed to settle down. Traffic flow is smooth sailing. No need to rush. You have plenty of time to make it to your destination. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
It's the Nebraska Lottery Spring Game Promotion. From March 12th through March 25th, play Lucky for Life and enter the voucher number online. You can win skybox seats to the NU football spring game and more. Lucky for Life top prize odds, 1 in 30 million.
It's the most time-honored tradition to start the weekend, grabbing a cold one from a local Nebraska brewery. Let's be real here. It's cold outside, and you don't want to drink the same boring beer as those Hawkeye fans. Drink Nebraska-brewed beer, cider, or seltzers instead. Each week, we're putting the spotlight on a unique Nebraska brewery with One Beer Friday. Share your brew on social media with the hashtag OneBeerFriday, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to a local Nebraska brewery. Nebraska is the good life with great beer. Click nebraska.beer to learn more.
There's no better thing than to help others in their time of need. John Bishop here to invite you to be an organ and tissue donor at goodguysavelives.com. Anyone can register, regardless of age or medical condition. Donor hearts and lungs save lives. Donor tissue makes recovery from surgery easier. Next time you renew your license, check that organ and tissue donor box or visit goodguysavelives.com. Learn more about organ donation today and see how you can save 8 lives at goodguysavelives.com.
When I heard the words, "you have breast cancer," I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do. My OBGYN called me and said, I know exactly what we're going to do, which led me to Nebraska Cancer Specialists. From day one, I felt that I was at the right place. There were some pretty rough times, but together we are stronger and they are there for you. You do not feel that you are alone.
NebraskaCancer.com.
The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is available right at your fingertips in Iowa. The Circa Sports Iowa app is sports betting the way it should be. Bet anywhere in Iowa and experience high betting limits, tight money line splits, and exceptional customer service. Download your new bookie today. Visit circasports.com and start betting like a pro from anywhere in Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
If you're a veteran or know a veteran who's having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, the Veterans Crisis Line provides direct connection to free, confidential, and compassionate support. Dial 988, then press 1, and you'll be connected to a trained crisis counselor who will listen, provide support, and connect you to additional resources if needed. Thank you for your service. We owe you our support. Dial 988, then press 1. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
What goes perfect with the madness of March? The convenience of Cubby's downtown in the Old Market, 13th and Jackson. And if you're gearing up to watch the game, Cubby's has what you need. You'll find a full meat counter with steaks, burgers, chicken, and homemade brats. Hot and fresh deli food, including Chester's Chicken and Godfather's Pizza Express. Pop, water, beer, and a full liquor department. See you at Cubby's Old Market, the very best in convenience. Open 24 hours at 13th and Jackson.
Welcome to
RV ready. Looks like the great outdoors is calling.
Indeed. Thought I'd remind folks to head outside again.
Love that idea.
I know Leach Camper Sales has a great website.
LeachCamper.com.
Folks can browse the inventory and then head over to Leach Camper Sales in Council Bluffs and then head out to see me.
That's the best idea I've heard in a while.
And don't forget,
the coffee's always on.
Of course it is.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
So in the D1 baseball poll, Nebraska is 26th. So they are
right there,
outside of the top 25. Kansas State is in the top 25. Tomorrow night in Manhattan, Nebraska and Kansas State baseball. Will Bolt's team, they've responded to him. They are 17-5. They won 7 in a row, 16 of 19. Creighton goes for a sweep at the Sunken Diamond today against Stanford. Nebraska at Creighton coming up on April 2nd, next week.
Right here in the zone.
All right. So that'll be the start. I think that will be a really, really good game. Both teams have shown they got a little bit of depth on the mound.
Yep.
That those midweek games are not as helter-skelter. But Nebraska baseball, starting pitching and then pitching. And they did both this weekend with Brett Sears in the first game against New Mexico State. And then their bullpen was fantastic on Saturday. Of course, yesterday everybody got postponed. And then you look at what Cancelleri did on Saturday against Stanford, and he shut them down. Once we get through this basketball, red and blue in baseball may keep us rather interested for a while.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you're Creighton. You're at 17-3 right now. You're stacking wins. At some point, it just becomes really hard for the NCAA to keep you out of the tournament, even if you don't win the Big East. If you continue to win, but those are the opportunities right there. Nebraska, that 3-game series, and we talked about Coastal Carolina. Those are huge opportunities. And the other good news for Creighton, at least it seems, that you're going to have Nolan Clifford coming back to the lineup here very shortly. You're going to get Jack Grace making his way back into the lineup as well as a regular guy. Those guys are major contributors to this lineup. And for an offense that has been pretty solid throughout the year, and you try to get Ben North back as far as get his confidence back up there, this is I'm with you as far as the Nebraska Creighton side of this, but watching both of these teams as now Nebraska enters Big Ten play this weekend on the road, and then you've got Creighton, which will be doing so here very shortly as well. Keeping an eye on those teams, even when they're not playing each other in that 3-game series. I know I'm trying to remember how we answered it as far as all 3 schools making the D1 baseball tournament. I think I said 1, and I think I said Creighton. I think Nebraska is well on their way to make that at least 2, because Omaha unfortunately having a down year this year. But yeah, they are putting themselves in a position right now. Both teams are right now looking very, very good.
Texter text in. Probably just a coincidence they got rid of Jeff Christie and the pitching staff got better.
Look, it had to happen. And you know me, I love Jeff. I think there were things that Jeff did with some of the middling arms that he probably doesn't get enough credit for. But as far as the more high-profile arms, that development that just did not come quick enough, and a lot of that midweek uncertainty, hey, whether that was directly Jeff Christie's doing or not, that's your pitching coach.
This isn't a Jeff Christie thing to me. Rob Childerson's on a different level.
Yes, he is.
And they have developed depth where you look at their bullpen on Saturday. It didn't matter which guy was coming in. They all complemented each other very, very well. And then you have competition for who is going to be your Friday night starter. They open up conference play this weekend in Chicago against Northwestern. They've developed depth. I mean, that's just pure development where doesn't matter which guy's coming in. And now you got Kyle Perry at the end of the back end of the bullpen, who looks really, really comfortable. Got his 3rd save against New Mexico State. I can't wait for that game on Tuesday night. That game will be here. And then they also meet. When do they play again? On April 16th. Yeah, and then they have the tradition. Well, no, then they play April 30th. So no May game this year for Nebraska and Creighton. They're going to play all 3 games in the span of a month.
Remember we had that conversation about that final game and how it's lost a lot of that.
Yeah, because you don't have the Missouri Valley Conference against the Big 12.
The Big 12, right. But also
you don't have both teams that are barreling towards NCAA berths.
Well, that game you mentioned not in May. That game always used to be, that third game always used to be in May. Usually it was like either before the last regular season series for both teams or the week before that. So was there towards the end.
Let's hope, because I think both these teams are good. Let's hope the weather is good next week, because the attendance for this game has been way down, especially when it's here in Omaha.
Yes. Yeah. Lincoln is, you have no problem with that. Lincoln, it'll be banged out because I mean, you get 7,000, 8,000, it looks at capacity, but it would be great to see this thing, whether it's the first one or the last one, get to 10,000. I think that would be fantastic. I know that doesn't look like much at the Chuck, but yeah, it's disappointing to see those crowds being very sparse, especially even when they've had some good teams too. I think this year might be one of your better back and forths between these two teams.
So I think one of the losers of the weekend was Villanova.
Oh,
I'd like to be a Villanova fan. You're not really sure what this thing that's going on is called March Madness. You've got a coach that,
yeah.
There's a midday radio host that coined the phrase Kyle Neptune.
Yeah, heard that one.
His actual name is Kyle Neptune, but here's why it's an L for Villanova, because you won a championship. Jay Wright took your program to a great height. I mean, Raleigh Massimino, Jay Wright. Lots of guys in between. Didn't work out so well. But Jay Wright is an HOFer, and he gets out at the right time. It's got to pain you to be a Villanova fan, knowing your current basketball program and who's in charge of it, and then looking at your former legendary head coach who looks so comfortable and is so good on television that there is no shot that he is ever coming back.
No.
Like, you can't convince him that, hey, Jay, come back to the main line. No.
Not going to pull Bill Snyder.
The growth of Jay Wright, and maybe it shouldn't surprise me, the growth of Jay Wright on television is pretty fantastic. Man, he is so smooth, and he's concise. He's to the point. He doesn't waste a lot of words. He's got the charisma. He's got the look.
Yeah.
Villanova fan, and that's got to be rough. Your current program and the guy that got you to where you are, he ain't coming back. He didn't look like he's miserable on TV, and he wants to get back coaching on the sidelines.
Yeah, it's like itching, like,
he looks like he is in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And he's on commercials.
Oh, he sits down, gets to talk with coaches, gets to do features with coaches, which again looks like he's been doing it for decades. He's one of those guys, and I'm always jealous of these guys. He's one of those guys. I feel like you can put him in any role, and he's gonna exceed expectations. He's just that type of dude. He's smooth. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, he's perfect for that role. And as you know, that is the cushiest gig when you are good at that job. Being a studio host, and especially during that time of the year, and being able to kind of go off into the features with the coaching fraternity, the guys that you know very well. So you get to have those types of conversations that come off so great. The money of what you get from that too, zero stress in Jay Wright's at least professional life right now.
Hey, I checked for everybody this morning. Boo Boo, he actually is out of eligibility. So when they got beat by UConn last night, he walked off the floor. He was done. But speaking of the Big East, so UConn is a train. They are scary. The way Kling is playing, they're validating in 2 games in the tournament. They're really, really good, and they've got a good shot to repeat. Marquette with Kolek back, they look like Marquette. Yep. And they actually may have benefited with Kolek being gone, because guys' roles changed and they learned and they got comfortable. Yep. And then you reinsert him and they look good.
And that's not always the case.
No. And then Creighton is Creighton. So the 3 Big East teams advance to the Sweet 16. The ACC has 4 of the 16, but the Big East gets 3, and 5 of their 6 wins are by double figures. I think it's a bad narrative. Remember, I'm not conference guy. Like Purdue, Illinois getting to the Sweet 16, not a surprise. But it's not because they were in the Big Ten. Big Ten was down this year. But those 2 teams were the best of the Big Ten, and they were somewhat built to win in the NCAA tournament. Purdue's on a mission. Yeah. I mean, Smith still hasn't shot well, but the tall guy is still doing tall guy things. So I'm not conference guy when we get to this part of the season. I'm like, there's 16 really good basketball teams. They get hot at the right time, or they're good throughout the entire season. But just because the Big East has 3 and their top 3 who carried the league doesn't mean that more teams should have gotten in. The 3 that were the best in the league were the 3 that have done well in the NCAA tournament, and doesn't mean that we should have had more. I hate that narrative because it all of a sudden changes. Like, well, look at Virginia. Look what the ACC is doing, I guess. No, get Virginia out of here. All right, you should have given me Indiana State, who has won 2 games in the NIT, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
The Big East had 3 really, really good teams that when they get on a bigger stage, they're still really, really good. Doesn't mean that we should have opened the door and said, Seton Hall, St. John's, Providence, all you come in. It's this time of the year, it's 68 different teams that have no conference affiliation.
Don't we
in
do
my
that?
Opinion.
Don't we do that every year, though?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't do it.
I feel like that's always the big conversation surrounding the first weekend takeaways is all of a sudden we start doing a conference roll call. And we try to look at, okay, what conferences still remain? How many teams do they have remaining? And then you're quick to, I feel like the question, because every Big East coach got this question leading up to the NCAA tournament and then post-NCAA tournament for the ones that are going to the Sweet 16 of, look at the Big East representation. Now, what do you think about the teams that were left out? And it's the same answer that they gave before, and that was a tough pill to swallow. But I don't like that narrative because, yeah, when you get to this part of it, you can talk about, well, our conference led to us having the success that we became the teams that we are now in March. But can't we just say that that's coaching? Can't we just say that that's your personnel?
No, we just say it's 3 really good teams.
Yeah.
And you know what? The rest of the league has benefited because they have made an extra $20 million by what they've done in the NCAA tournament.
If you get some surprises, if you get a couple surprises, let's say Seton Hall made it in as a
I mean, do we think the Big Ten is all of a sudden really good because they got 2 Sweet 16 teams?
They still are what they were this year. Yeah, it's a very tired narrative that always follows the first weekend of the NCAA tournament is the conference roll call, and you get your takeaways. This conference was clearly overrated because of this, or this conference was underrated and probably should have got more teams in based on how many teams they already have in the Sweet 16. No, this is an individual team mindset. This is where you have to look at the coaches and the personnel and what they do now in all of these matchups. I hate that.
All right, Jacob Bigelow is coming up here in a little bit. If you are traveling west, Interstate 80 is closed west of Kearney. If you're not in the area, we got some weird weather. It is rain for the last day here in Omaha, and there is a blizzard in western and central Nebraska, and goes all the way up through South Dakota and up into Minneapolis. Minneapolis got like 7 inches of snow yesterday.
It looked nice over the weekend.
But snow was done. Are we getting snow overnight here?
A trace, a potential trace. I haven't put the snowblower away yet. Keeping it.
How many times you use that snowblower?
Actually, none, because the first one we had, it broke. And so when I got it back, of course, it works fine, and I've got nothing to snowblow, which I'm fine. If that meant I had to take one for the team, I'm totally cool with that. I'm ready to move that thing.
All right, Jacob Bigelow is coming up next. He was in Memphis, and we'll ask him, what's the first order of business for Fred Hoiberg in the offseason after a trip to the NCAA tournament and making sure that you get back there next year? That's coming up next. Also, Amy Just, who may have a thought or two on the Kim Mulkey stuff. Kim Mulkey, who makes Bobby Knight look like a nice person, and her lashing out at the Washington Post. When will that come out?
I know. I'm
all
refreshing
the time. There
is
the potential that Iowa and LSU could play a week from tonight. I think that's on ABC, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Elite Eight?
Yeah.
Ooh.
If it drops the day before.
I got to imagine this is coming out in the next couple of days.
Sounded like it.
But she should get a cut of it because she did a lot of publicity for it this weekend for people that may have not known.
Didn't know.
We'll get Amy's response to this from the journalistic side. That's all to come in the last hour of Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
It's Champions replacement window season, and we're celebrating with buy 2 windows, get 2 free. If your windows are drafty, difficult to operate, or costing you money on your energy bill, it's time to replace them. Champion Windows is here to help. Champion builds our own windows right here in the USA. We make the process easy. We help you choose the best design options for your home. We then build your project in our very own factory. Our install team manages your project every step of the way, and it's all backed by our lifetime guarantee. Turn your house into your dream home with more livable space in a new Champion sunroom, or enhance your curb appeal with new siding, now 30% off. Don't wait, this sale won't last long. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and 30% off sunrooms and siding. Call 877-GO-CHAMPION or visit championsavenow.com to schedule a free in-home estimate today. All discounts apply to our regular prices. Select styles apply. Minimum purchase required. Cannot be combined with other advertised offers. See store or website for details.
Oddly, he's interesting because he's so uninteresting. He is the most uninteresting man in the world.
Hi, I'm Bob Berger. Don't settle for anyone more interesting. Let's get to work on your business and personal taxes, payroll and employee benefits, QuickBooks and retirement planning. Call me.
Call Berger, Elliott, and Pritchard CPAs at 402-551-1919 or visit bepcpa.com.
At Target, count on our great deals just in time for Easter. Save $5 when you spend $30 on toys with Target Circle, so you can fill their baskets with fun, like cuddly stuffed animals or 50-piece sidewalk chalk, all from only $5. Add an Easter chocolate faves at BOGO 50% off, from Cadbury to Reese's Mini Eggs and more. And get great family picks with new Easter looks. It's easy with 20% off dresses, polos, and more. Hop in fast for our best Easter deals, only at Target. Restrictions apply.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Jimmy, what should Bill Self do? What's his first order of business?
Buy a new team. That's what they do there.
Might happen.
And now everyone else can do it too.
Did he say that he was already thinking about, like a month ago, he was already thinking about next season?
It was more than a month. But he said a month.
But are you just headline guy?
No, it's.
But did you listen to it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you listen to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's not wrong.
So that's where we're getting this disconnect. Because it's very accessible, like on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You got to listen to his whole thing,
right?
Because it immediately came out, and it made it sound like while he was sitting there, he was thinking about next year.
Right.
You have to listen to. It's just some people just read headlines, others dig into the story and listen to the actual audio.
Yeah.
If you listen to the audio, it makes perfect sense, and you'd be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Instead of people are like, well, he gave up on this team. Well, you got to listen closely, but
down 20 in the second half.
His team and his staff constructed this team really, really poor.
Yep.
This is one of the worst defensive teams of KU I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are weak physically and mentally.
Agreed.
I'm looking at big fellas run the floor that are DJ Burns 280 pounds to Zach Edey 300. And I'm looking at Dickinson and I'm thinking, man, that dude's out of gas from going up and down the floor.
Meanwhile, I'm looking at DJ Burns. I'm like, man, Lance Leipold could use him.
He missed so much of that Gonzaga game in moments where Gonzaga is going on a run that you needed him, because clearly he was the only person that was going to provide them some offense. And for him to sit out as much as he did, and I get the shoulder injury, everything that maybe came with not being able to go live as much as he wanted to leading up to the tournament. But by then, Hayes in the barn, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was that part of it. And back to what he said about thinking about next year, the Kevin McCullough injury to them was devastating. And I know once they knew that his availability was going to be so sporadic, if at all, that you're starting to already think about how to construct that team and the things that they were unable to do this year. how you're going to go about that the following year. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If you've watched his team more than even a couple of times this year, you can see exactly what he's talking about. That was just a very flawed team from so many areas that we're not used to seeing Bill Self teams flawed.
Yeah, they need to fix the attitude. I mean, it might be cleaning house. They have some guys that were still left over from the championship team, and they had a different type of attitude and drive, and guys that were added didn't have the same. And also, they weren't an old team. No. Again, college basketball is built to be old. I give credit to Brad Underwood. We knock Brad Underwood a lot because of his personality and his style and some of the things he says and the fact that he can't pronounce Tominaga correctly. But his construction of this year's roster for Illinois, he deserves a round of applause.
Yeah.
He said, we're getting old. We're going to get old, stay old. Look at the 16 teams you could go through, and there's a lot of older teams that are in. Again, North Carolina's average age is older than the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Right.
So getting old and staying old is big now in college basketball.
It is. It's easy to do with NIL.
Look what we did after Kentucky got beat the other day.
Yep.
All right. Jacob joins us next. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center, the crash on eastbound Dodge from 168 to 156 is cleared. Still expect slow traffic in the area. Everything else is smooth sailing from here on out. Traffic flow seems to be normal. No need to rush to get to your destination. Hope you had a great day. Be sure to buckle up and drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Lanahaw Nurseries.
It's spring. Now is the best time to shop at Lanahaw for all things garden or landscape. Our garden center is filled with the largest selection of homegrown plants, flowers, trees, and more. The area's best mulch and soil available for delivery and pickup. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha frequently conducts clinical trials for a broad range of investigational treatments. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, infectious diseases, acne, and others. Some current studies include low T, COPD, flu, pediatric, infant, and RSV. They also perform vaccine studies for people of all ages, conducting innovative research that has a positive impact online. See current trials at velocityclinicaltrials.com. Compensation for study-related time and travel. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
Do you like to shoot fireworks? Would you like to get paid to shoot fireworks? J&M Displays wants you. Help shoot an Omaha Storm Chasers game, Memorial Park display, or any of the major shows in Western Iowa and all of Nebraska. If you like to travel, J&M covers Nebraska, Kansas, and most of Missouri. They offer free training and great daily pay rates, which makes it a perfect part-time job. Visit jnmdisplays.com and click the Join Our Team tab to find out more. J&M Fireworks.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know when you shop Salvation Army thrift stores in the metro area, you're helping people in need right here in the community? Proceeds from our thrift stores go into our metro area social services, supporting everything from food and housing programs to behavioral health and more. So stop by, get a great deal, and make a big difference for people in need. For a list of store locations, just go to salarmyomaha.org. That's salarmyomaha.org.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. Shop ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, Jacob Bigelow joins us. Another fantastic basketball season. Jacob got to go to a lot of places, got to be on a lot of shows, including this one. He's back from Memphis. Outside of the outcome, how would you rank this experience of this trip to the NCAA tournament?
It was all right. I didn't really do much. I got in on Thursday night and didn't go anywhere, and then was at the arena most of the day Friday and left first thing in the morning Saturday. So I didn't really see much else of Memphis, but it was still pretty enjoyable. Very fun season for me from start to finish, and I haven't gone into my cave to hibernate until next November yet, because there's still a couple weeks of the tournament to be played.
You don't sleep till May. Come on, you know that, right?
No, I try to not take after that guy. I had the chance to ask him this weekend why I was blocked on Twitter. I chose not to, but yeah, we were in the same building for a little bit. That's the closest I'll come to Mr. Rothstein.
Hey, real quickly, as you got a chance to experience it, and I know Gary was there too on Friday, but you got a chance to not only experience that, but also what you saw from this fan base up in Minneapolis. Do you ever step back for a moment? Because you've seen this for covering this team and being a part of this team for, a decade now. You ever step back and still just look at the overall Nebraska basketball fan support in amazement of, with a lot of the lean times, that they just don't waver? And we saw great examples of that these last 2 weekends.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely thought about it plenty. The more I heard, about what was going on in Memphis on Thursday night and during the day Friday, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like PBA South. And I mean, the arena wasn't completely full, but I mean, it was a, pretty one-sided split between Nebraska fans and the rest of the teams that were in Memphis over the weekend. And I mean, that just tells you how hungry the people around here are for a winner, especially in men's basketball and in football. I mean, we see the Husker fans travel all the time in football. I mean, we've seen great turnouts, for some baseball weekends, then in big time, settings. I think of that Fayetteville Regional a couple years ago. I mean, Nebraska fans are hungry. They are hungrier than ever for a winner, and that was pretty evident these last couple weekends too.
What's Fred's first order of business in the offseason?
A true non-combo, 100% true point guard. I think that is the number one order of business. That is the top box to check. That is without a doubt the biggest thing that this team needs. That was without a doubt this team this year's biggest thing that I thought they needed all year, and I think that has to be the first box to check.
We're in agreement here, but I just want to get this out. That person does not exist on the current roster.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
When do you think we'll get a clarification on Ulis?
That's a great question. He was never technically declared ineligible. He just, they assumed he was, and he sat out the entire year. I would, with the turns that case over in Iowa took, I was kind of expecting to hear something about it like midway through the year, and we never really got an official, any clarification from the NCAA or from anyone. So, hopefully something on that comes down fairly soon.
It's been a while since we've watched him, but I also want to go to the other popular topic when it comes to this roster, and that's a big man. And Blaise Keita, have we turned the page on that, or is there still reason to believe that Blaise Keita can come back? He can be the type of big man that could help Nebraska, and if Rink Mass is back, could allow him to be more of a true four. Do you still think of him that way, and is that even a possibility going forward?
It could be. I don't really know what to think with that situation. I mean, when big men have chronic issues with lower body, it's a unfortunate slippery slope, and I haven't gotten any insight on Blaise. He was in uniform toward the end of the year. He went through warm-ups toward the end of the year. I haven't gotten much clarification on that. I think I think if he's able to stay healthy through the spring and summer, then there's obviously potential. But I mean, it has been a while since we've seen him on the court. But I think Nebraska right now. I mean, they need. I mean, I would describe it as a switchable big man, a big man who can switch on defense and not get completely lost due to either a gap in athleticism or something like that. That'd be my description of the kind of big Nebraska would need to add.
So along those lines, looking guys that can come back, and Bryce Williams had a great finish. Juwan Gary, all intents and purposes, is that he'll be back. Rink Mast will be back. But Rink Mast's role will look like what next year with him on the floor getting his usual 28 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it'll depend on the roster construction. I mean, that's I know Rink got the brunt of, plenty of criticism on Friday night and throughout the season. People wondering if he can even jump or dunk or, whatever. But, I think, Fred's system fits his, how he wants to play really well. I referred to him as, the ghost of George Niang at the start of the year, not current George Niang, fat George Niang, when he was an undersized big, bringing the ball up. Obviously, Rink Mast isn't going to do some things off the bounce that original fat George Niang did, but that's the comp in Fred's system is, a big who can sometimes bring the ball up, stretch it. I'll be interested to see if the role changes, but I think that would have to do with roster construction.
Jacob, I asked you this question a year ago about CJ Wilcher, and I expected it to be the case, and it turned out not to be, that he would move on. I want to ask you about another player just because I saw a similar change in their role and seemingly embraced it and seemed to have more success in that role. You probably know where I'm going. Jamarcus Lawrence, are you feeling good that he will remain a Husker and that he will have a role that will be satisfactory to him and that can ultimately help this team as well?
I don't know right now. I think then this is completely and totally speculation, non-informed. I think I'm keeping an eye on both the New Jersey boys in terms of what they may do next year. Those in terms of I think those are the two guys that I am looking at the most in terms of potential movement. That is completely my own speculation. Just looking at the roster and just stuff from throughout the year. I would not say I have a definitive feel for either, but I mean, if I'm keeping tabs on anyone on the roster, it would be the two of them.
The CJ Wilcher is interesting because he has his degree and he's been here for a while. And, there were discussions last year, man, is he going to leave? And, CJ was like, no, I'm staying. But if by chance CJ decides to go and play somewhere else for his last year, that's kind of, I said earlier, Jacob, in the Nebraska basketball world, the Chucky Hepburn, whatever happens, if he's staying, he's going somewhere, that's kind of a domino, right? Isn't CJ Wilcher a domino as well? Because what he does, there are a couple of interesting prospects that Nebraska has kicked the tires on in the portal that could fit that role as well. So isn't he like another domino of what Fred does if, CJ says, hey, coach, thanks for the mems, I'm on. Then you're like, okay, that opens up this kind of player, and we've already contacted that kind of player.
It definitely would. With the way the roster looks right now, there's definitely a log jam on the wing with Williams, Wilcher, Gary, and they all have eligibility coming back. And CJ has been that come in and hit a couple threes guy, and we've seen him. We saw him explode during his hot streak, in the middle of the year. But I mean, yeah, it would definitely be a domino if something were to happen there.
One more. Will I play more games at Nebraska at point guard than Ramel Lloyd Jr.?
You might. Depends on if they want to give you a jersey. You might. I mean, it's a possibility at this point. Talk about a weird situation. A very highly touted recruit who, we just have not heard anything from. Well, we've heard plenty from on social media, but nothing about from voices that matter basically since he got to campus.
I know this kind of circles back to where we started this conversation. You're watching that game against Texas A&M, though, and a lot of people are really getting reactionary when it comes to Nebraska's lack of athleticism compared to Texas A&M's. Jacob, you've watched this team all year. You knew what their flaws were. You knew what their strengths were. You watched a lot of college basketball, especially over this last weekend. I'm curious, given the field, say Nebraska doesn't draw Texas A&M in the first round, given the way that this team is built and their strengths and weaknesses, do you think Nebraska still has a good shot against the teams seeded 12 and higher? When I say higher, do I say higher, 9 and 8s and 7s and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, they got a matchup from hell. I mean, for
Agreed.
the way they're built and compared to, and with how A&M was playing, I mean, they could not have gotten a much worse draw. And, as the week went on last week, the more I watched of A&M, the more I went into full dork mode and was watching some game clips and everything. I'm just like, how is Nebraska going to guard this team? Like, I was just like, they both tried to play that no middle, defense, but, we saw the execution of it was a little different between the two. But I mean, I would think that, Nebraska, if they had a different draw, they would have had, it definitely wouldn't have looked like that. I mean, just look at the other 8-9 games. I mean, all the other 8-9 game winners lost by double digits to the 1 seed, and Northwestern played Florida Atlantic, Michigan State played Mississippi State and took care of business pretty easily, and then the other 8-9 game was Utah State, TCU, two teams. Utah State won a ton of games in the Mountain West, and TCU, they were mid-pack Big 12, and then none of those teams look like, play like, or built like Texas A&M, and Nebraska got that draw. Obviously, I sound like I'm making excuses, but I mean, the NCAA tournament is so much about matchups and your draw on top of the strength of your team, unfortunately, and that's the downside about it is Nebraska scored 83 points and they lost by double digits, and their season's over. So that's just the unfortunate way that this tournament works.
Hey, let me go back to the current roster and I want you to project where you think they'll take the next step. He battled some injuries, but still got on the floor for 17 games. And I like the brief glimpses. I'd see him for about 8 to 10 minutes. Give me a year from now what Eli Rice looks like.
Ooh, he's got a good amount to work on, but I mean, he could. Is he gonna get bigger? Because he's kind of a slight 6'8" right now. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll definitely get him in the weight room, spending plenty of time with strength and conditioning this summer, and when he flashed really, really well. And he putting it on the deck, going to the basket. He loved him a couple corner threes, throughout the year, and I definitely would say, there's a possibility for him to take a jump. I don't quite know what it looks like, but I think he's gonna have to work on some things on the defensive end if he wants to, secure some consistent minutes. But I mean, there's definitely a lot to like.
Jacob, there was, and I can't remember if you said this a while back. We were talking Nebraska basketball with somebody, and they brought up the transfer portal / recruiting profile or narrative of what Nebraska has got in the past and what they need. And I thought it was perfectly said. And if this wasn't by you, I apologize, but you need to find somebody that is going to ask the question, what can I do for Nebraska, as opposed to what can Nebraska do for me? Do you feel like this season for Nebraska has given Fred and the coaching staff the ability to find more of those guys that are going to ask the question, what can I do for Nebraska, as opposed to what can Nebraska do for me?
I think so. That was not my point, but I like it. And I would agree with it. I think that the trajectory of how they finished last year, and I know that they finished 16-16, and we're keeping their fingers crossed for the NIT. But they showed upward trajectory, and then this year they take another step forward, and they finish third in the Big Ten, and they get to the tournament for the first time in 10 years, and they can call guys in the portal and say, here, look at these last couple of years, year to year, the improvement, the jump, the change. The trajectory last year, was able to help them land guys like Bryce Williams and Frank Mast, and have Josiah Alec come home. And now there's even more, proof positive, proof of concept of what they're looking to do, how they're looking to play. And, it's not a bad sales pitch to say, hey, we were on the doorstep. We think you fit. You can be a part of, helping us, get, as Fred likes to word it, take the program to somewhere it's never been.
All right. Best story of the first 4 days of the tournament is, and you can have multiple answers to this.
Ooh. See, I think it's been okay to meh, in terms of, games. People obviously complain about it being, an awfully chalky Sweet 16, but, that's how I thought it would be. The Oakland thing was really fun. I really enjoyed following that. The Jack Golke experience. I'm going to love listening to Happer talk about seeing it up close. Greg Campy, who's been the coach at Oakland for 40 years, him just getting up in front of the media and saying, yeah, I got told we sold $8,000 worth of merch that all got shipped to the Louisville area after we beat Kentucky. That was pretty priceless. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me right now. It's been an okay tournament. It hasn't been great. It took until last night for us to see a buzzer beater. The buzzer beater came off a bounce pass from the baseline to the top of the key, which makes it even more ridiculous. But they're really good teams that look like really good teams, and there's the potential for some box office, matchups to see what group of four we get in Phoenix. So I didn't answer that question, but I really did like the Oakland thing, and everything else has kind of been a little,
It's called the tourney fame. I mean, you get hot during the tournament, and one player becomes more than an insurance salesman, which I think.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a great story. Greg Campy, who I've gotten to meet a couple of times. That's a great story, but that's what the tournament is about. That's why we love March Madness. These people that we have no idea who they are, all of a sudden get on a big stage and they have their moment, their 15 minutes of fame from schools like Oakland, and you fall in love with them. That's why this is so unique, that when we get to college football in November or in December and January, and we have our December, January Madness, we're not going to have stuff like this. College football just can't do that, what college basketball can do over the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, even with all the chalk in the Sweet 16, the top four seeds that didn't make the Sweet 16 were coached by Bill Self, John Calipari, and, I forget the other two that got knocked out early. But some
Tom
great
Izzo.
coaches. Tom Izzo wasn't, that high of a seed, but he did take a tough L. But it is hard to, consistently advance in this tournament year after year, and that's a credit to the coaches and programs that have made it a regular occurrence, and there's still nothing quite like it.
Jacob, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week when the Final Four is set.
Yeah, we'll have a Final Four, probably some more coaching carousel fun going on this week. There's still plenty to talk about before I go into the cave for a couple months. So thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. Have
Thanks,
a great
my
week.
friend.
See you, man.
I still can't believe. So if you're just tuning in, Creighton and Tennessee play at 9:09 on Friday. I still can't believe that the late games in Boston and Detroit this weekend start at 9:09 or 9:15 or later.
At 10 o'clock local time.
Yeah.
That's silly. but it's consistent to what we've seen from day one at this NCAA tournament.
All right, Amy Just coming up next from the Lincoln Journal-Star. We'll put a wrap on the men and the women and get her thoughts on the Kim Mulkey story in the Washington Post, which, remember, the Washington Post once said F you Nixon and printed the Pentagon Papers. I don't think they're worried about a basketball coach at LSU.
No, they're good.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on The Crossover.
All right, let's see. So Danville Dairy Daddies. Look at that. Look at that horny cow. Look at the eyes on this bad boy.
Is the cow giving the eyes?
There's something weird about that.
No, I can't say it.
He is a bull. This is a dairy daddy. Oh, his name is McCreamy. Got it. Perfect.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620. The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Scattered showers and thunder showers possible Monday morning and again in the afternoon. Highs will top out near 60 early in the afternoon and then fall through the evening. Rain changes to snow overnight. Light snow possible into Tuesday morning with strong winds. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
College basketball's biggest tournament is coming, and it's time to start betting like a pro with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa. It's sports betting the way it should be. High betting limits, tight money line splits, exceptional customer service, and more. Fund and bet like a pro anywhere, anytime. It's never been easier. Download your new bookie before all of the March action at circasports.com. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
Hey, Omaha dog lovers, get ready for more wags and more fun. Hound HQ, your dog's favorite spot for daycare, boarding, and top-notch grooming is now open. At Hound HQ, there's plenty of space for a pup to sleep, play, and everything in between. Plus, our expert groomers are here to ensure your furry family member always looks fabulous. Join our pack on Facebook and Instagram at The Hound HQ, or visit our website, thehoundhq.com, and sign up your dog today. Hound HQ, more wags, more fun.
Riding season is here, and it's time to trade in and trade up. Or, if you ain't riding it, Luss Hills Harley-Davidson is buying it. Sell your Harley-Davidson today. Luss Hills Harley-Davidson. Rise up and ride on.
Here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
That meeting could have been an email.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
Look at all the things my neck can do now.
At Mattress Firm, we know the right mattress matters. That's why we give you 120 nights to make sure it's right for you, or your money back. Plus, you get free and fast delivery. Shop in-store or online at mattressfirm.com. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Brakes? We can save you 15% on that. We have OE quality Duralast brake pads and rotors in stock, ready for pickup or delivery. We also have calipers, brake fluid, tools, and anything else you'll need to do the job right. When you get Duralast pads and rotors together, you'll save 15%. It's just part of what makes us America's #1 brakes destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
College basketball's biggest tournament is coming, and it's time to start betting like a pro with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports Iowa. It's sports betting the way it should be. High betting limits, tight money line splits, exceptional customer service, and more. Fund and bet like a pro anywhere, anytime. It's never been easier. Download your new bookie before all of the March action at circasports.com. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we welcome in the well-traveled columnist from the Lincoln Journal-Star, Amy Just. Good Monday morning. How are you doing after your return from Memphis?
I am so tired. It's been a long, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know. It's been a long ride here. Starting with girls' state basketball. I haven't bought groceries since girls' state basketball.
Whoa, that stuff's overrated.
That changes today.
Okay. Before we put a wrap on men's and women's hoops, because you clap back, we try to get you and Pat 40 together, but
no,
Pat was a little busy.
Absolutely not.
So put on your journalist hat, and you are familiar with Kim Mulkey. What's your reaction?
I was more so just mad at Pat
for leading out that Washington Post was going to do this story.
That's
before former Kansas City Star writer Kent Babb, who is doing the story, could put it out. Okay, so from your standpoint as a fellow journalist, your reaction to her reaction to a story that has not yet been published.
Honestly, it just makes me want to read it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's when people say, "Oh, I'm not going to say anything," and then they say a lot. It's just LSU has a really good crisis management team. Did you not have them help you? What are you doing? Just stop. There's nothing you can do or say that's going to make the story not come out. So, and also her characterization of the Brian Kelly article as a hit piece was really funny to me because it wasn't at all. So, but yeah, no, I was more mad at Pat because number one, he doesn't work for the Washington Post. Number two, you don't do that. What is wrong with you? And then number three, I just hate him for other reasons that I won't go into. So, we've got beef, personal beef, but I won't go into it on their show.
How far does it go back?
2020.
Oh, the COVID year.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I hate him.
Damn,
using the strong word of hate.
You don't have to say what he did, but man, you are
not
this.
I don't dislike many people. I get along with just about everybody, but he can kick rocks.
You can fly a kite.
Yep, all of the things.
So, I'm with you when it comes to the interest that it now draws, and I don't. You've been around different coaches and different coaching personalities when it comes to some of the most ultimate competitors. Is this a situation, just the way that you're gathering as far as Kim Mulkey's response to the article coming out, of someone that just can't help themselves, someone that is always competing, and even if it's against somebody that they feel like is going to put a negative spin on who they are and the type of coach they are, where do you think that response? Maybe the better question is, did the response from Kim Mulkey, did that surprise you at all, given what we know about her?
No, it didn't. I am curious though by her saying that she's going to sue the Washington Post, because everybody can want to sue, but then you have to realize what goes into that, right? You have to open up all of your life for discovery, and I don't think she wants to do that. That just seems like a bad idea. So let's just wait and see what happens. Maybe it's not bad. Maybe it is. I don't know. I've known Kent a long time. He's a good friend. He's a really good reporter, and whatever he puts out there, I trust far more than whatever Kim Mulkey says.
Oh yeah, I've called the Schwans, man. I said, stop by my house. I got to get a load of popcorn, because she is. That's who she is. She doesn't give an F, and this will be an interesting back and forth on what's going to be out there. It would almost be better if the Washington Post put out a story and it was about like, hey, Kim Mulkey adopted pets from a shelter in Waco and also in Baton Rouge, and she shelters pets.
Isn't that what this is about?
Yeah. But this is that just is very odd that you would attack an article that has not come out yet. With what she said the other day. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. But man, that screams guilty, guilty, guilty. But that's her personality. I mean, she's always been like that.
Yeah. And so and usually in things like this, teaching like news literacy, like when you're working on an article like this for a long time, you usually have like a list of questions that you send to the subject. If they keep dodging you for like an actual interview, so you can, get like a statement from them or like a response on some of these things. So I think that's what she was referring to, was the list of questions, because she'd been evading him for 2 years. So that's what that sounds like to me, that she was responding publicly to questions we don't specifically know exactly how they were asked and what they were about. Like, that's what that feels like to me.
It'll be interesting. Amy, with now both Nebraska men and women done for the season, whose season, as far as what you thought going into the year, whose season surprised you more?
Men's. I knew the women would be back in the NCAA tournament. They had all the pieces to do it. So them being back there doesn't surprise me. But the men, and I've like admitted this, like I didn't think that they'd get there. I thought they'd have a better season than they did last year, but I didn't think it would be as good as it was. And so it's an incredible success story for them to get back to the NCAA tournament. It sucks how it ended.
Yeah.
But now moving forward, that's what it takes.
The lesson, if you're Fred Hoiberg, that you learned from this year that it will apply to next year will be what?
Oh, that's a good question. Just because your first plan doesn't work out doesn't mean that it's not a good, whatever you come up with isn't a good plan. And I think that's true for many reasons. How he's like adjusted his philosophies over the past couple of years, how this past offseason, how they went after so many big fish in the transfer portal and didn't get any of them. How you presume that Aaron Eulis would be your starting point guard, and then that didn't happen. So I think that they withstood a lot of stuff and still made it work. And so, and maybe this makes Nebraska more attractive for free agent targets or free agency. It's the transfer portal. It's free agency.
That's what it is.
No, just it's okay to call it free agency.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't had coffee yet this morning. But yeah, so we'll see. Because I think that Nebraska is in a good spot. Obviously, you lose two guys that mean the world to this program, and Casey and Josiah, and then CJ and Rink and Bryce and Juwan have decisions to make. It would break my heart if CJ left, just because I've built a pretty good working relationship with him, as evidenced in the story that I wrote last week. It wouldn't. I don't know how to get a read on it. Like, I know he loves this place, but I also know he wants to play with his brother, and he hasn't even thought about what's next for him yet. So, but yeah, so I guess that's what we wait for. And see what Nebraska does in the transfer portal. Do they go bigger? Do they get like an actual big instead of really super athletic guys that are like tight ends? Or do they go get like an actual stuff? I guess we'll see.
And by the way, his brother is at St. John's.
Yes. Sorry.
Could he come here? We don't know. Hey, real quickly, because as we've unpacked a lot of it with basketball, hey, by the way, football started yesterday. New athletic director is going to be announced. Have you put yourself in football mode yet, too? Are you processing football yet?
No.
Are you going to soon?
Tomorrow. That's tomorrow's problem.
All right. Okay.
I need like a day or two just to like decompress and switch gears. Like it's hard enough for me to switch gears in between like men and women's basketball just because they're entirely two different teams and all of that. To switch gears to like back to football when I haven't really thought about football since like January. Yeah. And I don't know how I do it in season when I go between football and volleyball, but I need like 2 seconds because the last 3 weeks have been exhausting.
So there'll be a lot of questions tomorrow for Troy Dannon, and he's been visible. He was in Memphis. He was in Corvallis. He talked to the media in Memphis. Anybody that was following women's basketball yesterday, he talked to them individually for a brief moment. So tomorrow is his big Troy Dannon day at Nebraska, and he'll be hit with the questions about why and how and all of those. What do you think, Amy, moving forward? Because this has been something that was a big thing of the Trev Alberts-Ted Carter partnership, and it was discussed a lot after Trev left of the power structure. Now with Dr. Gold becoming the president, and it isn't in his wheelhouse to be involved in athletics, what do you think the leadership model will look like at Nebraska moving forward?
I think it will stay the way that it is. I think that it's a good thing for Nebraska to have somebody who isn't like wanting to have their hands all over everything. But it's also good to have somebody who's really well respected doing that. And honestly, I don't know, because Rodney Bennett hasn't been here very long either, but he is now the longest tenured person at Nebraska at the brass level. So I don't know. Nothing would surprise me anymore, honestly, after everything we've seen in the last 3 weeks.
And Dr. Bennett has had really not much around athletics in his brief time here. That is wild to think that now he is the longest tenured person in the power structure, and he got here last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Nebraska.
What a time to be alive.
We appreciate it. Good stuff from Memphis, and I know there will be more. And that athletic department keeps us all in employed. There'll be a lot more stuff this week, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's Amy Just from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Tomorrow, Troy Dannon is announced.
I like Troy Dannon Day. Just rolls off the tongue. Should be a good day. Kids should be out of school for it. Just stuff.
So 2:00, and in the past, you had not seen the AD before he was officially announced. Now he's been visible. He's been on the job since Friday, and quite frankly, he's not done a very good job. Both his men's and women's basketball teams got eliminated.
Oh yeah, that's true, because we were talking about Dennis LeBlanc, and tell me anybody who's had a better week than Dennis LeBlanc.
Dennis LeBlanc is an athletic director, never lost an NCAA game. I wonder if
most successful run by any Nebraska athletic director.
So I know that Dannon has been briefed on the stadium project.
Yeah.
And I think it will be scaled down a bit, and it'll be stretched out a little bit further. The biggest fear internally has always been, you're going to displace that many people. What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. He's already been briefed on it. I wonder how much he will go in depth when he's asked about that stadium project that the drawings are in his office, and you're going, hey, that's kind of cool. That's kind of futuristic.
Yeah. That was the one question, though, that remained unanswered, right through Trev's departure, is
should just say
what's going to happen.
You know what? I would come on and say,
Southeast.
We are tearing down Memorial Stadium, and where a lot of you pay $10 to park over by Haymarket Park, and then you walk across the field, and then you walk by the baseball stadium, and you walk across the ramp, and that right there, that's going to be the new Memorial Stadium. Just leave it at that.
I'm out. We'll talk to you guys later. It's your mic drop right there.
If they had a place to play, just building a new stadium would make more sense. But that'll be one of the top things. I'm sure that'll get asked tomorrow. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We'll put a wrap on this show. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone.
If you're unhappy with your job or employer and you've hit a dead end, it's time to start your new career as a delivery driver with Host Coffee. Our local family-owned business is growing, and we now have openings for delivery drivers and other positions starting at $22 an hour with full benefits. If you're interested, visit hostcoffee.net/careers to connect with us.
Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is your home for the big game. We're in the middle of the best time of the year of basketball season, with meaningful games every night, with 40 TVs and massive dual projectors. The games have never looked better. Pair that with their award-winning char-buffed wings and $7.99 Monday through Friday lunch specials. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill has everything you need. 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout, 162nd and Maple.
What goes perfect with the madness of March? The convenience of Cubby's downtown in the Old Market, 13th and Jackson. And if you're gearing up to watch the game, Cubby's has what you need. You'll find a full meat counter with steaks, burgers, chicken, and homemade brats. Hot and fresh deli food, including Chester's Chicken and Godfather's Pizza Express. Pop, water, beer, and a full liquor department. See you at Cubby's Old Market, the very best in convenience. Open 24 hours at 13th and Jackson.
Hi, this is John Bishop. Since the day I got my driver's license, I've had a check next to the organ and tissue donor box. It's a selfless gift because healthy organ donors can save up to 8 lives. And with tissue donation, dozens more can get the gift of sight, and burn victims can get life-changing skin grafts. Anybody can register, and there's no cost to you or your family. Check that organ donor box next time you renew your license, or visit goodguysavelives.com. Learn more about organ and tissue donation today and see how you can save 8 lives at goodguysavelives.com.
A day to remember. The least anticipated album tour. July 24th at the Astro Amphitheater. A day to remember with special guests. The Story So Far, 4 years strong, and Scowl. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. The wait is over. Don't miss A Day to Remember.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is Cops. Receive 2 $25 gift vouchers for just $25. Cops makes delicious pizza, fresh salads, and tasty charred wings. For the basic menu, click copspizza.com. And for the extended menu, visit them at Shadow Lake Town Center, 180th and Center, and the newly reopened 72nd and Jones locations.
Zone deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com.
Email unsportsmanlike conduct on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox with whatever is on your mind, from your hot takes to what you think is one. The Zone inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Wow, no pictures of Raiola throwing the football today at spring ball? Nothing? Nothing yet?
Nothing yet. We saw plenty of pro day, though.
What are we doing?
He had his pro day last week. Come on. Got enough.
We should know everything that he is doing today.
It is weird. I asked Amy the question, and her response, I think, is like most people's response is, yeah, we're aware football started yesterday, spring ball, but are you there yet? Are you into it yet?
Now you will be.
Yeah.
Basketball season's over.
Yeah.
There will be pictures and video on Thursday. Yeah, you'll be into football mode.
Yeah. Just not going into I'm with her. You take today, you're going to hear from the new athletic director. Matt Rule will speak on Thursday, and then it's like, all right, here we go. And then you start counting down to the end of April. See that spring game. So hopefully a lot of footballs aren't on the turf in that one.
Minnesota, which is not having a public spring game, did a practice the other day. Mr. Fleck opened it up to people that are part of the NIL that have donated to NIL at Minnesota. Their Dinkytown Collective.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. You want to make some money, $18.90? You got Trev out of the way, so it won't be as butting heads on the NIL front. Go straight to Rule and go, you know what? We can make a little extra money here for $18.90. Why don't we have a practice that is open only to people that donate to $18.90?
Yeah. We've talked about that before.
Well, they did.
You brought it up before.
So from, after the COVID year where you couldn't be around anything, you couldn't go to the games, the following spring, they did open up practice to like 5,000 people.
Right.
It was really, really cool. I mean, it sold out like that. And they haven't done something like that. Frost never did it again. And Rule last year, he didn't want to do it. I think it'd be a great idea. Hey, $18.90. We need a little influx of money. Fred needs a point guard. Can you help Fred out by opening up a practice to just people that donate to $18.90? You don't think the subscriptions to $18.90 would go up?
Oh, yeah.
I can go get a private look at practice?
Right.
Oh, yeah, man. What do you need, $10?
Yeah, because it's something that's deemed open to the public. You know how that goes. You feel like what you're seeing is what they're allowing you to see. But if you feel like you're going to an actual practice, an inside practice that's not open to the public, but your money is getting you access to that you're seeing exactly what it looks like on a daily basis, how valuable that is. Oh, hell yeah.
Make it more well known to the public that, hey, if you're part of $18.90, we give you some access to go see a practice.
Yep.
Instead of making it, quiet, you make it public. Say, hey, you want to go to a practice, here's your opportunity. Sign up for $18.90.
See those on the billboards? Want to attend a practice? Call this number. Reach out to Matt.
Remember when Mike Riley first asked, he goes, hey, I did this thing in Corvallis where just the people in the community would bring their lawn chairs and they'd come to practice. And he was like, can we do that?
Yeah, how uncomfortable the athletic department was when Mike Riley's like, hey, come on, come all. No, it's not how we do things, Mike.
Yeah,
no.
They were like, welcome to Nebraska. This is not Corvallis. Yeah, he invited people. Hey, hey, the guy at Embassy Suites, you want to come to practice? Just come on down.
Yeah, come on now. I'll let you in. They're like,
you get down there and you got a yellow coat going, where's your pass? I was going like, hey, Mike told me to come.
Yeah, I know Mike. Mike who? Mike Riley. Oh, yeah, he's good. Let him in.
All right. Tomorrow, we'll start to dive into the matchup between Creighton and Tennessee, the Sweet 16 game that starts late Friday night in Motown. Opposite Purdue and Gonzaga. Tennessee, the 2 seed, Creighton, the 3 seed, early line, 2.5-point favorite are the Vols. We'll do that tomorrow and much more. We'll get Tim Kruger in studio. His reflections on a trip to Pittsburgh and what's gone on in the tournament, and also what Val Ackerman said about how they might look at the net in the offseason. All of that coming up tomorrow with our regular array of guests on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.